talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range. Commercial vehicles built around your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van centre.
With the headlines at 1 minute past 10, I'm Tom Clayton. Good morning. The widow of Graham Thorpe has told talkSPORT he needed more support from the ECB after his sacking as assistant coach. It's
really clear to me that he would still be alive, so it would have made all the difference. I mean, you know, it's hindsight and no one's got a crystal ball or anything, but it was too much, the cliff.
In 2022, at the time of his dismissal, the ECB extended Thorpe's medical insurance to cover 10 counselling sessions online, but Amanda Thorpe says they had requested residential care, which were not provided in time. In a statement, the ECB says it's met with Amanda to discuss her concerns, and Graham's death was looked at by an inquest with full ECB support. That inquest didn't criticise the way he was sacked. Amanda Thorpe was speaking to Head Before Wicket, a talkSPORT investigation into mental health in cricket. Listen now via the following on podcast. Elsewhere today, talkSPORT has been told last night was hugely frustrating for Manchester United. A second defeat at home in the league, this time at the hands of 10-man Everton. John O'Shea has told talkSPORT last night was easy for the Toffees' back line.
All the attacking talent they supposedly had on the pitch, and they just couldn't really sustain attacks, and they were putting in, I won't say pointless crosses, but for Tarkowski and Keane it was perfect night for them because they were loving it.
And Chelsea legend Gianfranco Zola says their match against Barcelona this evening will have a massive effect on what the Blues can do against Arsenal on Sunday.
Winning today, I think it will give a big boost to the team, to the crowd, to everyone, and it's going to be huge in confidence.
We'll have all the latest from the bridge as the Champions League restarts tonight from 7.
talkSPORT News.
Social media firms have been issued guidelines to better protect women online. And could AI really replace half of our jobs? More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. For a limited time only, get 15% off a set of 4 selected premium tyres. Don't miss out and book today at quickfit.com and drive away happy every time. Conditions apply.
Mostly dry today. Patchy cloud allows some sunny spells. A few showers around coastal areas.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT. So 10-man Everton take all 3 points at Old Trafford. Should there be discretion that made for players clashing with teammates versus opponents? Meanwhile, how much duty of care do you have to individuals once you have sacked them? Also today, is fronting up to the cameras a form of leadership? Would it be timely for clubs to indulge in a spot of goodwill? Is there no such thing as off-limits when capturing the moment? What is the new PSR, and how much of a litmus test week is it for Chelsea and their credentials? It's Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
So, last night, I'm chatting to a gentleman outside a little shop that I go to now and again for a newspaper.
Was there Turkish baths or something? I was getting a bit concerned for you.
And he says to me, what has happened to Simon and Martin Keown? These days, they're the best of friends. And you know what? He's right. He wasn't wrong, the fella, was he? You have a newfound friendship, a kind of bromance going on with Mr. Keown, do you not?
I don't know about that. I think Luke neutered him, didn't he? Luke neutered him during the summer, and so Martin's taken a chill pill and is no longer waving his finger on his shopping list across the studio at people.
He used to go at you. He used to go at me a fair bit as well,
didn't he?
But now it seems we have a new fellow altogether in Martin.
Yeah, time to get rid of him. We need someone's going to come in and be unpleasant to us.
A lot to get through this morning, Simon. I don't know if you caught Manchester United Everton last night. Yep. I will never know how Manchester United didn't manage to get a goal on the boards.
I didn't think they were great though. Did you?
No, I didn't. I think he's got an awful lot of puzzles to solve.
Yeah, no pace to their game.
Yeah,
no energy behind their game. Just we knew once Everton had got this ridiculous sending off, and whatever we think about that, I'm sure we'll discuss in a minute.
Yeah.
It was clear that they were going to make the game difficult for United, and that's what they did. And United didn't do enough. They created opportunities, but there was no cut to their game. There was no energy to their game. There was no movement of the ball quickly. So, they've got their work cut out. And to lose 1-0 at home to Everton, a 10-man Everton, is a poor result, given the fact that United were showing green shoots of recovery, or the perception of green shoots of recovery.
Yeah, a first win at Manchester United in 18 attempts for David Moyes.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose there is no sweeter victory in the Moyes archives than that. I mean, 11 years on from his sacking, I don't know, have both Moyes and Manchester United somewhat gone full circle?
Clearly.
Moyes left United with his side in 7th. Everton and Manchester United this morning sit joint 10th. I mean, that's how it's gone, isn't it?
I mean, it's clearly a circle for David, because he's gone out of Everton to Manchester United and is now managing Everton against Manchester United.
Yeah.
Trying to compete with the Manchester United of the world, albeit the Man United of the world that he was competing with during his 10 years at Everton was a powerhouse. This is one that's rebuilding like they did in the 70s and 80s and 90s to get themselves into a position where they became the powerhouse of the Premier League. So David's gone full cycle. I don't know whether you see that as progress. I mean, David Moyes is a brilliant manager. I've always liked him.
Yeah.
I liked him when he was at Preston. I like him as a fella. And I think he's done good jobs wherever he's gone. There's been a few instances where he's come up short. I think probably the Sociedad experience wasn't a great one for him, and I don't think he made a great fist of it at Sunderland. But most of the time, David is a top-draw manager. He's rehabilitated himself. I think the Man United experience was inevitable. It was inevitable. Everybody, without saying that...
How do you mean inevitable?
Coming after Alex Ferguson,
yeah,
it was inevitable. Most sensible people would have gone, ooh, I'll leave that for a couple of managers' time, because we're following in behind somebody that's almost unfollowable. Ferguson was unfollowable. Because
no one's unfollowable.
Well, it was a bit like Brian Clough's analysis when he took over from Don Revie. I want to do better than you.
Yeah.
And Don Revie saying, well, you can't do better than me. We only lost 2 games last year. We said, well, I only want to lose 1 then.
I think he would have done better if he'd been given more time. He would have proven that he had the credentials.
No doubt. That's not the argument I'm advancing. The argument I'm advancing was the expectation of Manchester United was not to have a transition period. Of course, David Moyes should have been given more time. Time has told us this. Evidently, time has told us this.
Yeah.
Ruben Amorim is being given more time for less deserved reasons than David Moyes was given. David Moyes walked in off the back of Ferguson, the championship-winning side, with the expectation. Man United's fans are grateful for the team turning up.
Yeah.
They're grateful for players running about now.
Yeah, yeah.
If David Moyes was the manager of Man United now, he'd be an all-conquering hero, rather than somebody that was considered not good enough after 7 months. So, of course, David should be given more time. But my point is that anyone that followed Ferguson wasn't going to be given any time.
No.
Because the Man United fans weren't beaten down to a nub. They weren't suppressed into the thinking that ultimately any kind of performance on a field is something they should be grateful for now. They were still the all-conquering Man United.
Yeah. What we did see was a very strange event in the 13th minute of the game. We've seen it before, actually. It's not a strange event. We've seen this before. Idrissa Gueye was sent off for slapping his teammate Michael Keane 13 minutes on the clock. Now, Guy completely lost his head and had to be restrained by teammates. The incident sparked when Guy played a loose ball in the Everton penalty area, and it led to a chance for Bruno Fernandes. Now, Guy apologised after the match, but he slaps Keane and then he gets sent off. Yeah. Now, in the IFAB rule book, Simon, a player who, when not challenging for the ball, deliberately strikes an opponent for any other person on the head, or any other person on the head or face with a hand or arm, is guilty of violent conduct unless the force used was negligible. So off he went. It says in the rule book he's got to go.
He's not an opponent, is he?
So he went.
The language is very ambiguous because he's not an opponent, he's a teammate.
Right.
I mean, I've been a massive critic of Michael Keane. I've got this sort of image in my mind of the airplane scene when they queue up to smash the woman in the face with a cricket bat, a baseball bat, whatever they could possibly do. And seeing Michael Keane play it sometimes, that's what I felt like doing to him.
Yeah.
But I don't play on the same team as him.
Yes.
I actually watched it and thought, is there a necessity to send a player off for this.
Exactly.
Given it's an altercation between two players of the same side.
You think there should be discretion?
Well, I think there should, common sense, but also the optics of the sport are massively important. Bringing it into distribute. Now, you go back to when Lee Bowyer, of course, and who was it? Was it Jenis?
Kieran
Dyer. Sorry, Jermaine. You have your own problems and have to need to plumb on you. The idea that was something that was palatable, because that was a full-on fight on the field.
Yeah.
And so you've got to deal with that situation. This was a flashpoint between two players that were very hyped up early in a game that was full of focus, and probably Moisey had charged them right up for the very reasons that you spoke about, which is Moyes going back to Man United and wanting to get results.
Yeah.
Send his team out to be motivated, and they've got involved in an altercation, and my nose tells me that it feels like an overreach. It's unnecessary. It doesn't feel like common sense. It feels like, pack it in, you two. Yellow cards anymore, even a cross word between one another, you're going off.
Exactly.
That's what it felt like to me.
I agree, Simon. So just to re-emphasise that rule, a player who, when not challenging for the ball, deliberately strikes an opponent or any other person on the head, yeah, there's the part. Or faced with the hand or arm, is guilty of violent conduct unless the force used was negligible. It was pretty darn negligible anyway. It was one of those. Have a slap in the side of your head.
It feels like, but then again, you get into this area of we cannot allow. We are caught as refereeing supporters to some extent, which is what we are. In the ideal of subjectivity.
Yeah,
it's funny. I was watching a clip the other day of Brian Clough having a long conversation with John Motson, and I think it was about 79, where he was going at Motson about TV coverage, and you lot should just shut up, play more football, and less commentary. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. But he talked about refereeing, and he said, "You lot make refereeing an impossible job. These referees cannot do their jobs because of you lot inside the studios." I'm not suggesting this is what I'm doing with that. What I'm saying is we go back 46 years.
Yes.
And the leading figure, one of the most controversial figures in football, Brian Clough, was talking about how referees were given a hard time. Now, roll forward 46 years, it's off the clock. That was 1979. Referees were getting slaughtered. Now go forward to 2025, where you've got angles every single where. No one tolerates one single mistake by a referee, and then talk about subjectivity.
Yeah.
Because I'm arguing for subjectivity. Because the moment we allow referee subjectivity, some clever sod over here turns around and goes, hang on a second, that subjectivity didn't work for me.
Exactly. I was keen to find out what the man said. I watched the whole game, then I thought, I want to hear Moyes and I want to hear Amarim. So let's hear both of them now.
Quite pleased they were fighting each other, because it showed me that they cared, and it showed me that there was a bit of that, and that's what's in Everton. We're trying to demand higher standards from everybody. So I can't quite work it out if it was Keno's bad ball or if it was Ghana's bad ball to Keno, whatever they were annoyed with each other with. But if we hadn't got that fight and that resilience like what they showed, we'd have never get through the rest of the game.
Fighting is not a bad thing. Fighting doesn't mean that they don't like each other. Fighting is that you lose the ball, I will fight you because we will suffer a goal. That was my feeling when I watched. I don't agree with that sent-off. So I'm going to say that it was, we can fight with a teammate. I know it's a violent conduct, the referee explained. I don't agree with that. I hope my players, when they lose the ball, they fight each other. Now they cannot do it, it's a send-off. But that is a good feeling, not a bad feeling.
See, I like that. I like both of those points of view. Now, I don't know why the referee, Tony Harrington, didn't go down last night as being remembered for the guy who applied common sense.
Sure, but then he'd be the guy that didn't follow the rule book and be castigated for it somewhere along the line. See, I agree absolutely about holding people to high standards. I agree with holding your colleagues to high standards. Hold yourself to high standards.
Yes.
And make sure you demand the very best, which is what Roy Keane and overreached with Mick McCarthy back in the days in Sapong, didn't he? When he went beyond the pale and got a little bit too carried away with himself. I agree with the sentiments of exacting support. I think out of conflict, more often than not, can come creativity and can also come a different way of thinking about things. But there's a balance. You can go too far. You can have situations where conflict becomes part of it, and fighting is not a bad thing. They always talk about the dressing room, pinning people up against the dressing room, managers being prepared. Ferguson traded on a currency of ultimate violence, albeit verbal. Booted a boot into David Beckham's face, who made a 4-out play out of it, and had the hairdryer, right? So that was an underlying violence, wasn't it? An underlying sentiment of fear. So it pervades the sport. But it has to be just the balance, because if you don't retain some sort of order, then you will have free-for-alls, and all of a sudden the Premier League will start bringing itself into disrepute. So it has to get the balance right.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, Moisey, probably if his team had lost, he'd have something different to say about it.
True.
But they didn't. They won.
They won.
Exhibiting a fighting spirit, so he takes the positive from it.
Simon, I take on board everything you've said there this morning regards this, and I really do want to put that out there this morning. I want to get some common sense views on this, because when you look back at it, the 13th minute of the game will then go 77 minutes and Everton are down to 10 men. So it's a bit like the Alamo from that point onwards. Give me a call. You know the rule. The rule, a player who, when not challenging for the ball, deliberately strikes an opponent or any other person on the head or face with the hand or arm is guilty of violent conduct unless the force used was negligible. This was negligible, was it not? This is one of them. Michael Keane would have brushed it off. And as Simon rightly says, the two of them would have been in the spotlight from that point onwards. Maybe another yellow, and both of them would have gone. What do you think? Discretion? Should it have been applied at that moment? I would say yeah. What do you think? 03717 223344 81089. everybody. Tuesday, November the 25th. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan. We are live on talkSPORT, almost into December, almost into Advent calendar time. Look forward to that. How much duty of care do you have to individuals once you have sacked them? I'm going to get to that later on this morning. Very poignant case of Graham Thorpe. We'll get to that further down the line. The red card of Idrissa Gueye last night, the Everton player at Old Trafford. Was it necessary? Should he have been sent off so soon into the game after slapping the face of one of his colleagues? It really is a strange one, isn't it? Adam in Letchworth, he had to be sent off, Jim. If the rules are not allowed, players will inevitably have more leeway to argue their case. He said you can't let it go. You have to apply the rules. And the rule is, yeah, it was right. He was sent off. But can we not use a bit of discretion? The rule again, a player who, when not challenging for the ball, deliberately strikes an opponent or any other person on the head or face with the hand or arm is guilty of violent conduct, unless the force used was negligible. I would argue it was negligible, but others would argue those are the rules. You've got to abide by them. Do we have to abide by them? It's certainly a split opinion this morning, has it not? Dean's an Everton fan. Dean, good morning. What did you think of this?
Yeah, good morning. You know what? It was a little altercation. The referee should have, you know what, he would have been more commended for showing a bit of common sense. Everything should be black and white. Let's have it right. This is an entertainment business. We all enjoy watching the football. And when it went down 10 to 11, it was like, this is sport the game, this.
Yes. I agree. I mean, I'm with Dean on that. A bit common sense. Why not just apply it? Even if we hear from Harrington, the referee, afterwards for once, this is why I didn't send him off. Then we all know, Simon. What? Go on, Dean.
He said it was the third time in Premier League history that's happened. There was the Bowie Dyer incident. There was somebody else when it happened. But, you know, it wasn't a sparring session, was it? It was a bit of passion getting shown between...
Yes. Just lost Dean there. I agree with Dean there. I don't know if you, Matt. Matt, good morning. It's a Leicester fan who joins us live. What did you think of it?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. To be honest, I've not even seen it, but I'm just so wary of the whole referee discussion at the end of every weekend.
Yeah.
This week it's common sense. Let's get it straight. The guy made the right decision. The rules are there. By the rules, he made the right decision.
Yes.
But now we want common sense. The problem with common sense is it's not common. It's not common to each person.
That's
Everybody's
right.
opinions differ.
That's
common
right.
sense is not ubiquitous.
That's right.
And then next week we want consistency. And then, oh, we're being too harsh. We need common sense again. And this isn't just England. It's the same in Spain, in Germany, in Italy, in France. And do you know what they see the gold standard as? English referees. Why can't our referees be more like the English referees? They are the best of the best. There isn't this secret cache of world-class referees. So either all referees around the world are completely incompetent, or discussions like this every week just show what an impossible job it is. It's like I said, it's just so weary.
Simon, what do you want to say about that? I think he's raised some great points.
But he's absolutely right, and it's the point that I raised earlier on. It's a point that I've repeatedly raised. I don't want to defend bad refereeing because it should have consequences, but we are in a situation where referees can't referee, and it isn't helped. I'm not going to just make this about Arteta, but Arteta made the conversation 18 months ago where he talked about the standard of refereeing and then highlighted about the European refereeing being of a higher standard, which wasn't true and it isn't true. So that's a sort of seeding a narrative that gets pervaded through our media, our punditry, and all of a sudden the referees can't do right for doing wrong. We should be in a situation where referees are allowed to make a subjective decision based upon the commercial expertise they bring to bear. But if they do that, some clever sod is going to come out and say, I don't want subjectivity, I want absolute adherence to the rules. And he was right to send the player off by the rules, but he was perhaps wrong to send the player off by the nature of using some judgment, some objectivity, and dispensing it in a game that sometimes lacks some of that.
Yeah. Is there any difference, do you think, Simon, the fact that it's two teammates? That Guy didn't go up to, say, Bruno and gave him one on the side of the head? Would you have a different view of that this morning?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think this is a completely different dynamic. I mean, you're not intimidating the opponents. You're not trying to create a different outcome in the game. You're actually having an altercation with your colleague.
Yeah.
Now, you're sending somebody off because you're adhering to the rules. And as the caller just said, if there is no such thing as common sense, it's much trotted out. Oh, that's common sense. This person speaks common sense. Well, it isn't common sense. Sense isn't, views of things isn't, as he said quite rightly, ubiquitous. Everyone has a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
If you think about things sensibly, I think sensible views is a better way of deploying an observation about what is common sense. I think sensibly speaking, the referee should have the bandwidth to be able to go, well, I don't like what I've just seen, and I'm going to deal with it, but I don't have to send a player off to do it.
Right. I mean, it's like a flare-up in the training ground, isn't it? Oh, passion. That's what I love to see, passion.
But the referees can't do right for doing wrong.
No.
Because they get given a rule book. If they don't follow, if they even, half the time, the very people that are slaughtering the referees don't even know the rule book.
Yeah.
They don't even know the understanding of the rule. Every now and again, you get someone like Danny Murphy that comes in and tells you the rules of this, actually, by the way, and then clarifies it for people's thinking. But half the players on the field, we saw this with the handball rule a couple of years ago. You asked a selection of players, did a vox pop of players, none of them knew the bloody rule.
No.
Yeah, they're the first one to criticise.
Phil, good morning. You've been waiting patiently. Sunderland fan, what did you make of it?
Good morning. Thanks for having us on, gents.
Morning, Phil.
I think you're absolutely bang on. It's not just about common sense. And do you know what? If that referee made that decision yesterday morning, that referee is getting an absolute whooping. He really is. He can't do right from wrong.
Yes, yeah.
And he would have. And do you know what? I know what you're saying, Jim. At the end of the day, about obviously that is a sensible decision. I agree with all of that. But that referee would probably got disciplined, and at the end of the day, that's his job. That's his job. And
if he hadn't sent him off, Phil, he'd have been marked down for it. Yeah.
Well, exactly, and then he's going to get disciplined for that, and that's the problem. That's the problem with it, and obviously all the attention that the referees get. Simon's bang on. They can't make a decision. They can't make a decision because they just get absolutely trolled.
Sure.
Right, left, and centre.
Good call, Phil. Thank you for that. I think it's only fit and proper that we finish with an Evertonian, and Ian is that Evertonian. Ian, good morning. What did you think of it?
Good morning, gents. Yeah, I just thought it was massively refreshing to hear both managers basically say, "I like a bit of that." It's a passionate game.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
And I totally understand. I see Simon's point of view, always obviously a great counter sort of opinion. Basically, what he's got to adhere to the rules, but at the end of the day, we need a bit of that. It was fantastic. It made it for a better night.
Yeah.
And I do have to touch on a slightly different point. Coupled with the fact that we've jumped above the Reds, it was just a fantastic night for all Evertonians. And I just think it added to the spice of the game. We all this woke stuff, we need a little bit of passion.
Would you say that
going out the game?
Be honest with me, and before you leave us, would you be saying that this morning had Everton lost?
No.
There you go.
No, I just think from Everton's point of view, obviously, as I say, I've touched on the fact that both managers were very much for what happened.
Yes. Ian, good call. Thank you for that. It is Tuesday morning. A lot to get through. It's 10:30. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan live in talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
cricket legend Graham Thorpe had received additional support after his sacking, he'd still be alive. That's according to his widow. The former batter was sacked as an England coach after the failed Ashes tour in 2022 and spiralled into deep depression, taking his own life last year. Now, Amanda Thorpe has exclusively told talkSPORT, despite the ECB extending Thorpe's medical insurance to cover 10 online counselling sessions, more should have been done.
Would have made all the difference. You know, it's hindsight, and no one's got a crystal ball or anything, but it was too much, the cliff.
In a statement, the ECB says it's met with Amanda to discuss her concerns, and Graham's death was looked at by an inquest with full ECB support. That inquest didn't criticise the way he was sacked. Amanda Thorpe was speaking to Head Before Wicket, a talkSPORT investigation into mental health in cricket. Listen now on the Following On podcast. Now, as the dust settles on Manchester United's defeat at Old Trafford, do questions turn back to Ruben Amorim? The Red Devils slumped to a 1-0 defeat to 10-man Everton, and talkSPORT's Alex Crook says he's not confident of the current setup.
The fact he's stuck with the 3 centre-backs at the bitter end, I think is a dereliction of duty from the manager.
Meanwhile, David Moyes says he doesn't mind his players fighting if it helps drive up their standards.
I don't want them to accept somebody not doing well enough.
Get more on all that at talksport.com.
It's Tuesday morning. Jim White, Simon Jordan, live in talkSPORT. We're live on your TV, so many of you tell me now that you watch the show as well as listen to it, and that is great news for us because it's everywhere these days. Samsung, Apple TV, Chromecast, even Prime Video. So wherever you want to watch us, you will find us, and you can hear us live on talkSPORT every morning, 10 to 1. Courtesy of Selco, where the trade goes. I'll get to Pep and the aftermatch scenes on the pitch at St James's Park at the weekend. Pep spoke about that and how he approached the cameraman. None too happy that the cameraman was in his face. We'll get to that. We'll stick with Manchester United for the time being, Simon. 10th this morning, 11 points off the lead. But what that defeat meant last night to 10-men Everton was that it ended their 5-match unbeaten run. And I think that concerns Amorim for more reasons than one.
I feel afraid of returning of this feeling of last season. That is my biggest concern. So we need to work together. We are going to work together. The players are trying, but we need to be better. So we have training tomorrow, and we are going to prepare the next one.
You know, when they lose, Simon, after an unbeaten run that they've gone on 5-match, you can hear what he's saying there. I am slightly concerned we go back to our old ways. I feel afraid of returning to this feeling of last season. That's my biggest fear. So, as a result of that, do you think with Amorim at the moment, it's always a case of, yeah, well, exactly, one step forward, 2 back?
I just don't think they're a very good size. I think they're a side with some good players in it, but I don't think they're a very good team. I think a lot's made of systems and the way that he wants to play. But I think we have to look at the effectiveness of the players, move past the system and get to, they're good enough to deliver outcomes. I mean, if you watch Man United in the games, a lot of them have been draws. So this idea that they've been on this wonderful win run is not really there, is it? They've drawn 2 of the 5 games that they were unbeaten in. I mean, the opposition they've played against, Liverpool, are all over the place. And whilst it looks great on paper, the Liverpool result, we can see that Liverpool are getting beat with their boots on week in, week out, aren't they? You look at Sunderland, and okay, they were lucky in that game. in that Sunderland game. That was a much more difficult game than the outcome suggested.
Yeah.
And they drew with Forest, who weren't in good order, and Spurs, who, again, seemed a little bit of a mixed bag. They got Palace on the weekend. Difficult game. Palace are a difficult side to play against. It's at Crystal Palace, and whilst the Palace were poor against Wolves and didn't have much to beat Wolves, sorry about that, Rob Edwards, see you in the Championship. The idea that
you're not going to let that go.
Man United are a good side is away with themselves. Now, he doesn't have any pressure, does he? He doesn't have any pressure. He's been told he's got as much time as he needs by Jim Ratcliffe. Whether that's wise or whether it's stability, who knows? Time will tell. I would suggest that Man United need to see some significant progress this year and need some sort of qualification for Europe. And what that looks like may well be sixth. I always felt that United would know they weren't going to get relegated this year, as some people were suggesting, and they weren't going to occupy the bottom 4 spaces.
So, what would test that 2-year commitment that Sir Jim has placed on Amorim?
Well, season like last, I suspect. I mean, I think they are better than they were last year. I mean, obviously, up until we saw them against Grimsby, we saw them against Brentford, they were poor against Brentford. We saw them against Grimsby, and they were poor, really poor, and lucky to have stayed in the competition. To have got themselves into a situation where they actually stayed in the game, let alone, got themselves to a penalty shootout that they lost.
Yeah.
The fact is that United are still a shadow of themselves. They're still the team that occupy a huge amount of precedence, but their own fans seem to be very relaxed about Amorim, from what I can gather. He seems to be given a significant amount of
wriggle room,
latitude to be able to achieve things. I look at players like Mason Mount that are shadows of themselves. They're miles off what they once.
One game a week, though, Simon. I mean, I think top 4 is the bare minimum.
If you're a good side, yeah.
No Europe, no nothing else. One game a week.
But this Man United side could have one game a month, and they're not good enough. They're not a good enough side, and they're not good enough to compete with the sides that are above them right now. They'll be good enough in moments, and of course, this idea that one game a week is advantageous. Of course, it'll be advantageous. Of course, winning is advantageous as well. And if you're playing one game or 2 games a week and you keep on winning, the momentum carries forward. People talk about momentum. It's all about momentum. Arsenal have got Bayern Munich this week, haven't they?
Yeah,
they've had a big North London derby on the weekend. If they win these games, you won't hear. The only time you hear about players and about managers and about fixture lists is when people start losing games. And then you start hearing about it. United have one game a week, and that should give them an advantage over jaded sides that aren't able to function at the level that United are, because United are fresher for these games. But these sides are better. So they already have this 20% margin where the fatigue is compensated for by the fact they're a better side. So United, to me, are still a long way away from anything resembling anything that's really significant.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I do. I mean, I'm just trying to think when what would prompt Sir Jim to reflect on the commitment that he's made to Amorim and think, maybe I was wrong.
It's not worth the paper.
Maybe I was wrong.
It's not worth the paper it's written on, is it? I mean, the commitment is as good as the guy's performances. Yes, he wants to be able to quell the background noise. He wants to be able to suppress the rumour mill that somehow this manager's in jeopardy, to be able to get some sort of order in the dressing room so the players don't get ahead of themselves thinking they haven't got to play for this manager.
Yeah.
That's in part what the messaging is there.
But Ratcliffe didn't go public for nothing, did he?
Well, I think Jim Ratcliffe didn't go public full stop. I think he answered a question. I think he sat there doing an interview with media sources that he likes to do with, and he does it in a way that suggests that he has a viewpoint that he wants to impart. And part of that was, I think over the time, come on, Jim Ratcliffe is one of the most intelligent, gifted commercial men that this country's ever seen. But when he comes out with crap about Man United running out of money, you wonder why he'd say that. Yeah. Why'd you say that?
Exactly.
It's not true. So why say it? And it's no truer that Amorim is going to be given 2 or 3 years to build a side. If Manchester United aren't building a football team that's capable of competing inside the Premier League, then eventually their brand will erode. And the very things that attracted the Glazers to this free opportunity for themselves, and the very things that Ratcliffe wanted to be associated with as a shiny, successful thing, will mean that the manager has to deliver some sort of outcome. And if they don't finish inside the top 6 this season, I'd be gobsmacked if Amorim was still there.
Yeah. A lot to get through this morning. We're going to talk boxing. Yesterday, what did you make of that yesterday? It got a bit tense in the studio.
I thought some of it was stupid. I think I probably should have kept my trap shut in the break and not antagonised Jamie TK anymore. But I didn't like some of the behaviour. I thought it was unnecessary. But then again, at the same time, people want to see edge. And Fraser was winding him up and Jamie was biting.
Yeah.
And I was trying to give them a lecture in the break, which I don't think they appreciated. I thought it was a bit silly, some of it.
Well, but I mean, for those who don't know, Jamie TKB and Fraser Clark were in the studio. They go head to head. They fight each other on Saturday night in Derby. It got heated. Jamie, not happy at some of the comments that Big Fraser has made on social media, but
you couldn't point to any.
But at the end of the day, they're selling a fight.
But it felt like, I mean, to be honest with you, Fraser was as cool as a cucumber, wasn't he? And it felt like confected outrage from Jamie's point of view because he didn't seem to have a point. You know, what he wanted him to say, you shouldn't say you're going to punch me in the face. You're going to punch my face in. Well, Fraser said, well, that's precisely what I am going to do. Yeah. That's precisely the name of the game, isn't it? Yeah. It isn't a tickling competition.
No.
You know, how would you like me to say I'm going to punch your face in?
Two very big men. And you'll notice that Jamie did make a move towards Fraser at one stage, and you notice I stepped in. I didn't see any movement from you.
I was pushing you towards him. I'm saying it's Jim. And you should have heard what Jim said in your break. But I just thought that Jamie was a little bit unnecessary. But listen, like his manager said, this is fight week. Everyone deals with it differently. And the one thing you can't do is rationalise, with all due respect, the logic of a guy being prepared to go in a ring to hurt someone else. Neither you and I can relate to that mindset.
No.
So trying to tell them how they should behave is probably a fool's errand.
Well, the promoter Ben Shalom will join us in the studio later on this morning because he's the man behind the promotion of that fight on Saturday.
Oh, is he coming today, is he?
Fraser Clark and Jamie TKV will be fighting each other in Derby on Saturday night. Shalom will be with us shortly. A lot to get through. Stay with us. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
And welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it! Oh!
Yeah! We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology.
How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Tuesday morning, welcome along everybody. Just a warning at this stage, some of you might find the upcoming topic of conversation difficult to listen to, and it does deal with issues of suicide. Amanda Thorpe, the widow of legendary England cricketer Graham Thorpe, has claimed that her late husband would still be alive today if the ECB had given him better support after they sacked him. Now, Graham Thorpe died in August 2024 at a railway station in Surrey after taking his own life. It came 2 years after Thorpe was sacked as assistant coach of the England cricket team following a 4-0 Ashes defeat in Australia. Thorpe came under scrutiny after being at the centre of a leaked video, which showed him smoking a cigar inside the team hotel and filming police breaking up a player's drinking session hours after the end of the final Ashes test. Thorpe filmed the incident and then he sent it to friends before it was then circulated more widely and ended up in the hands of the Australian media. Amanda Thorpe told an inquest earlier this year that Graham had suffered, quote, a horrible time, and that losing his job as batting coach in 2022 was the start of the decline of his mental health. Graham Thorpe was diagnosed with anxiety and depression in 2018, and he had been having therapy. Now, Amanda has spoken exclusively to our reporter, our colleague here, Will Hobbs, on the impact of Graham losing his job and the impact that had on her late husband.
It's really clear to me that he would still be alive. So it would have made all the difference. I mean, you know, it's hindsight and no one's got a crystal ball or anything, but, you know, yeah. It was too much, the cliff. You know, he had another job to go to. He was offered that job. They came to him. So it's not kind of, that's the whole thing. Oh, I'm unemployed. And he had another job, but it was the whole mental breakdown of I'm no longer in that family. So it was that sort of thing. And so if he'd had just a little bit of the support framework there, to lean on a bit, to just transition a bit more, it would have made all the difference.
Now, despite sacking Graham, the ECB extended Thorpe's medical insurance for 3 months, which enabled him to receive 10 online counselling sessions provided by a therapist. But for Amanda, she told Will this provision was insufficient given the state that Graham was in.
It's just woeful, isn't it? I mean, 10 online sessions, and as he went through these sessions, it was clear that he wasn't coping. He was getting worse, and we really did ask for help. I knew he needed more help than that, and it wasn't forthcoming.
After 6 online sessions, Graham made a serious attempt on his own life and ended up in intensive care. Now the ECB did step in and pay for full residential care in a London hospital for neurotherapy. But finally, Amanda was asked whether or not she held conversations with the ECB leadership over this period of time.
I requested a meeting with them to discuss. I just wanted them to hear what Graham had been through and what happened, really, because so I wanted them to hear it, and I said lessons to be learnt, and to say how it was from our side. And do you think so? Yeah, I have, but I think maybe, I don't know, companies sort of, they don't really want to admit any wrongdoing, do they? And I'm disappointed that they're not prepared to have any scrutiny or look back on or discuss even what they did, because they were just keen to ensure and to say, well, we didn't know, we haven't done anything wrong. Whether that's for legal reasons, then maybe, but this is also about helping, you know, changing things and helping the next generation and making things better in the future.
The ECB have sent us a statement pointing to their full cooperation with the inquest into Graham's death. The coroner found no complaint in the way that Graham had been sacked and noted the support for the ECB from the ECB and the support they'd extended to Graham. The ECB also says it's met with Amanda to discuss her concerns, and heartfelt sympathies remain with the whole family. Simon, in the world of sport, how much responsibility and duty of care do you have to individuals once you have sacked them?
Why just sport? Why does it just lie in sport, that question? I have the greatest sympathy for the family. It's a tragedy, terrible set of circumstances where someone takes their own life because they're in such a mental condition that that's the only way that they feel that they can remove the pain and remove others from the challenge of their pain. I don't know whether I agree with Manda. I don't know what she's suggesting was the ECB's greater responsibility not to have sacked him, not to have parted company with his services at some point, or the ongoing responsibility for his mental well-being, and how far does that go and where does it go to, and is it their responsibility, and why is it their responsibility, and what exactly is the responsibility of the family themselves? Are we talking about the economics? Are we talking about the fact that the ECB should have still kept him within the framework in some shape or another? Because she talked about a family mentality. I mean, is it the responsibility of the family to find the economic support for themselves to be able to look after their own well-being? I don't know whether that's available to them. It doesn't appear, with all due respect, not to make a judgment, it doesn't appear that the therapy was doing him particularly that much good, because if he tried to take his life 6 sessions into his therapy, it doesn't appear that the therapy was aiding and abetting him that much. Well, that's a judgment on my part. I'm trying not to be callous. I have fired managers. I have released players. And whilst I think there is very rarely have I released somebody or fired somebody from a job that didn't deserve to be released or to lose their job.
But at any time did you think...
No.
I know this is totally separate to this situation, but at any time did you think, I wonder what impact this is going to have on him?
No, because that's unrealistic. Because ultimately, if someone doesn't have a right to have a job in perpetuity, irrespective of how well they're doing it. If you are brutal in the way that you remove somebody, they don't deserve to be taken out, or it's on the back of some spurious allegation that's found to be untrue, or some sort of agenda or conspiracy theory, then I think there's a greater responsibility to do everything properly. But at what point does it become, in this day and age, the responsibility? We are living in a society where mental health, we spent the entire time during COVID telling children they should be terrorised by COVID, and ultimately that the schools are going to close and they're all going to lose their education. Now we're surprised that we've got a mental health climate inside young people. We spent 5 years telling people they should be terrified by the world. So we have to be careful how we talk to people in society. But I feel the greatest of sympathy for Amanda Thorpe and the loss to her family. But I don't know quite what she expects the ECB or any governing body or any employer to do. She makes the case that, and she makes the argument that any company, well, at what point does the company's responsibility for someone that clearly had other opportunities in life, so it wasn't about the fact he didn't have other opportunities, because Amanda Thorpe alluded to the fact he had other opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, and perhaps the framework, it could be explained to me wider, why there is a necessity after you've fired somebody, nobody has a job. At some point, Graham Thorpe was going to lose his job, whether it was through age or through inexperience. So is it expected from an employer?
I agree with you on that, but when you take into account that this fella had been diagnosed with anxiety and depression in 2018 and had been having therapy, do you then think we need to be careful how we... I know it's easy to say it. We might need to be careful how we deal with Graham here.
Yeah, there's an element of that, but you dispense with Graham Thorpe's services, I'm assuming, because Graham Thorpe's performance in the job wasn't deemed to be good enough going forward.
They'd lost 4-0 in the Ashes series, yes.
So how far do you go?
Then the video came out.
So do you not fire somebody then? Because when you fire somebody, you are effectively saying to them that you're no longer fit for purpose. We no longer want you. So the question is how far then should the care wrap around them, knowing that someone's challenged by anxiety and by depression? What triggers the anxiety and depression is not the responsibility of the employer. It's the employer's job to offer the best opportunities to be able to facilitate an outcome for the person, male or female, in that environment. But does it go beyond that? So are we saying now that if somebody is struggling in life, and ultimately, as a result, it can't do their job, it's the employer's responsibility not to fire that person. But if you do fire them, then you will have to wrap around care with them until such a time as somebody tells you that person's fit to be able to embrace life again. That's very unrealistic. And I suspect that if the ECB had kept on. I mean, the argument that Amanda's making, and only she can make this argument, none of us can comment on this, is if he'd have continued to be supported, he wouldn't have taken his own life.
That's right.
Well, I don't know what evidence she based that upon, because he was being supported, and after 6 sessions in therapy, he tried to take his own life.
Well, she's suggesting the online counselling sessions were far from sufficient.
Okay, but I'm going to be blunt. If she knows that, then are we saying that they weren't economically able to support themselves to be able to make choices that were best fitting for their own lives, rather than make it the responsibility of someone else? We do all have to take responsibility for our own well-being. And if we are saying that there was a choice being made, now it might be easy for me to say, people say, well, you've got a few quid, Simon, you can make that decision. But I would imagine that Graham Thorpe had some economic resource around him that enabled him to be able to support his own mental well-being and have the treatment that he supposedly, or clearly, evidently, may well have needed.
Briefly, Simon, we always have discussions like this when it's too late, don't we? I mean, the wider conversation here is that when a sportsman comes out of what he or she has been doing,
yes,
throughout a vast period of time in their life,
does the industry have a greater degree?
When the lights go out,
but it isn't just sportsmen, it's pop stars. It's this everybody that comes off stage and suddenly the lights go down, are challenged by the reality of the newfound world. And of course, there is an idea that sport, to some extent, should facilitate the exit. How do you facilitate the potential of firing somebody? How do you provide a safety net for that? Because effectively, at some point, rejection is something in life that we all have to cope with, whether it's in a relationship or it's in a commercial career. How do you legislate? Have you got to do courses in management for people, preparing them to be fired?
I understand what you're saying, but here's a question for you before we leave this topic this morning. I won't name the individual who sent the message.
Yep.
Listening to Simon, great deal of respect for him.
Yep.
But if you had sacked a manager who went on to take his own life, would you have gone about it differently?
I always went about it fairly. So, with respect,
would your approach have changed in any way?
No, I don't think so. I mean, how do you soften somebody ultimately from saying that you don't want them? Because if that is the depression and the anxiety, first of all, if you're suffering from depression and anxiety in 2018, then you didn't take your own life because you lost your job. You were already suffering from depression and anxiety in 2018 when you were in a job. It's been compounded by the loss of value in the job.
Yeah.
But then does it become the employer's responsibility to take on the obligation for your well-being in perpetuity? It's a very difficult line to walk. I think it's very unrealistic to expect it. I do. I'm not being callous from the side of the fence where I was once an employer. I think it's unrealistic. But not knowing the full details of what the inherent obligation should be, because she made it very clear about being inside a family. So maybe there's a different expectation of sportsmen because of the environment they're wrapped around.
Yes.
And they're brought into that environment, and the moment they're taken out of it, it is like a fish coming out of water. They're gulping for air, and they need to be given more support.
I have to say, Amanda Thorpe, she's spoken exclusively to our colleague here at talkSPORT, Will Hobbs, who has dealt with the subject matter quite brilliantly. He really has, Will. You can hear the full interview with Amanda Thorpe on the talkSPORT podcast, Head Before Wicket, which explores how some of England's cricket biggest names have fought with depression and how the game is adapting. It features interviews with Marcus Trescothick, Graham Swan, Steve Harmison and Michael Vaughan. It's just gone 11 o'clock.
talkSPORT Sports Update powered by the Nissan Van Range. Supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With the headlines at 11:05, I'm Tom Clayton. Good morning. The widow of England legend Graham Thorpe is frustrated with the ECB's response after he took his own life last year. Amanda Thorpe believes Graham would still be here if he'd received residential care for his mental health sooner. Amanda says she met with ECB leaders after Graham's death but had to leave in tears.
I'm disappointed that they're not prepared to have any scrutiny or look back on or discuss even what they did, because they were just keen to say, well, we didn't know and we haven't done anything wrong.
In a statement, the ECB says it's met with Amanda to discuss her concerns, and Graham's death was looked at by an inquest with full ECB support. That inquest didn't criticise the way he was sacked. Amanda Thorpe was speaking to the Head Before Wicket podcast, a talkSPORT investigation into mental health in cricket. You can listen now via the Following On podcast. Now, Simon Jordan's not happy with Idrissa Gueye's red card at Old Trafford last night. He says it should have been dealt with differently.
It feels like an overreach. It's unnecessary. It doesn't feel like common sense. It feels like, pack it in, you two. Yellow cards anymore, even a crossword between one another, you're going off.
Gueye was sent off for slapping Michael Keane in the 13th minute during Everton's 1-0 win at Old Trafford. And Gianfranco Zola's stopped short of calling Chelsea title contenders, but admits he is impressed by the man in the dugout.
You know, I knew that Maresca was going to be able to do a good job, but I didn't expect the level of the job he's doing so far. So, congratulations to him and to the team. They obviously it's too early, but he's promising very well.
We'll have all the latest from the bridge as the Champions League restarts tonight from 7.
talkSPORT News.
There's a warning women may leave sport unless tech giants clamp down on online abuse, and 8 in 10 Black Friday deals are the same price or cheaper than at other times of the year. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Come rain or shine, we've got your electric car covered with 400 EV ready centres, so you can drive away happy every time.
Mostly dry today, patchy cloud allows some sunny spells, a few showers around coastal areas.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We've been taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it! Oh!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology.
How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Good morning, everybody. 8 minutes past 11 o'clock. Another big night in Europe in the Champions League. My goodness, some crackers tonight, are there not? Just down the road from here at Stamford Bridge, it's Chelsea up against Barcelona. Pep's Manchester City going against Bayer Leverkusen. And a belter down in the south of France, Marseille against Newcastle United. Marseille these days, and that one's on talkSPORT incidentally, Marseille these days under the guidance, the stewardship of Roberto De Zerbi. We'll keep across all of those before we go at 1 o'clock. Yesterday, not for the first time, this place seems to be the nerve centre when it comes to boxing. Of that there is no doubt. And the boxers want to be on this show, and we're thrilled about that. It's fight week again. Always seems to be fight week at the moment, doesn't it? This time, we're heading towards a British heavyweight bout on Saturday night in Derby. Fraser Clark against Jamie TKV. Fraser stands at 9 wins with 7 knockouts, with 1 draw and 1 defeat on his record, both against Fabio Wardley. Jamie TKV stands at 8 wins, 5 knockouts, 2 defeats on his record. And this is his first fight since a defeat to David Adley back in April. So in here with Simon and myself yesterday, Fraser Clark sat to Simon's left and Jamie TKV sat to my right. And it got a bit frosty.
All I've done is try to show Fraser respect, yeah?
Yeah.
So, show Fraser respect, but all he's done is, obviously, in person, we show each other respect, but behind the keyboard, he's always disrespectful.
What example, mate? What looking
What, when he's on social media?
On social media.
What was said on social media?
Huh? The other day you were talking about punching my head in. Was you not?
That's what I'm trying to do.
No, but you're doing it in a disrespectful way, and then you jump in my DMs.
Okay. So what? Oh, Jamie, I'm going to punch your head in. What do you want? How do you want me to go about it?
Don't talk to me. Go and do it then. Go and do it then. Okay, what we'll see. Stand in the middle like
is there a respectful way to say that I'm going to punch you up? Is there a respectful way to say that?
It's nothing to do. Look at the DMs. You know your DMs. We go back and forth in the DMs, bro.
I'm laughing at my phone. I don't know if you're sitting there angry about it. I'm laughing at the phone. Literally, if I had a problem with you, I'd tell you there's a problem with you here. No, I got no problem with you. You're another fighter. But you want to keep this screw face, this angry energy, makes it horrible for everyone else, like I said. But you don't care. You don't care. You want to be a thug, mate. Go and be a thug.
No one's trying to be
a thug. You trying to be a gangster and scare people. Go and do that. Go down on the street corner right there.
How's this
like
being
gangster? You're embarrassing.
Promoter Ben Shalom joins us in studio this morning. Ben, when you heard that, did it surprise you? Because it really did kick off. It was nasty.
I was surprised. I think I've worked with these two guys a long time now, and there's so much in this fight. There's so much on this fight for both of them. Jamie TKV obviously coming off against fighting David Adelaide, where he won most of the rounds. He won, if not every round, was on course for a victory and then had it taken away from him. It was ruled an illegal foul. The rematch was ordered. And he's been stewing on that for a long time. So I know it's a massive thing for him. But for Fraser Clark, he has to win on Saturday night. And getting both of them in the room on the Monday probably wasn't the smartest idea. But both of them are extremely under pressure. You know, this is on BBC Two. This is in front of a national audience on Saturday night for the British heavyweight title, and everything is on the line.
I have to say, the man to your right, Mr. Simon Jordan, you for some reason decided to move in and give them a ticking off, which was pretty much ignored by both of them.
Well, I just felt that Jamie was getting too aerated, and I just wanted to deploy some logic, which of course is not the thing you need to do on fighters. Logic isn't part of the equation to go into a ring and punch one another's faces in. But I thought Jamie was just being a little bit too much. I thought the atmosphere was becoming too intimidating, too toxic. And also I didn't appreciate him glaring at me like I was wearing his clothes. So I felt it was wise. I thought it was wise to tell him in the break, which it wasn't wise to tell him in the break.
He wasn't happy with Simon. He wasn't happy, but I don't think Simon was happy with him.
Blow out his backside.
What we're going to see, Ben? I mean, are there going to be levels to this fight? What will unfold, do you think?
Look, I think when you look at the Fabio Wardley fight last year with Fraser Clark, you can see the level of Fraser Clark. A lot of people felt he won that first fight. He got doctor point. He ended up with a draw, and we know what happened in the second fight. Fabio Wardley now sits here as heavyweight champion of the world, which is an incredible story. But I think Fraser must be looking at that thinking, I'm only 9 fights in. If he wins on Saturday, I believe he breaks, or if not levels, the fastest number of fights to a British heavyweight title. So he's still on course to do that. But I think he's looking at that thinking, wow, if things had gone differently that night, where would I be now? This is his opportunity. He's always wanted to win the British title. He's got to show his levels. He's got to show his levels. But Jamie is a dangerous, dangerous fighter. People underestimate him. David Adelaide underestimated him. Yeah. There's a reason why he swerved that rematch. He knew he couldn't lay a paw on Jamie TKV, and he's a very tricky operator. So Fraser is going to have to show his levels. I think it's going to be an unbelievable fight. And Jamie knows, as you saw yesterday, that there's a huge amount riding on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, for Fraser, if he's wanting to get into world title contention, he has to put him away on Saturday.
He does. I think it's one of those stages, as you said, he can't afford to lose. He wants the big names. He wants to be fighting for world titles. He's a very, very popular heavyweight, probably one of our most popular heavyweights in this country. He has the ability to sell out arenas. He has the ability to have huge fan bases. He has the ability to go and win world titles, but he has to show his level on
what Ben said, that he's got the ability to show that he could be a world title level. Do you believe that, Simon? Do you think Big Fraser still has it in him to be spoken about in that conversation, the ultimate conversation in boxing, where you're being spoken about as a world title contender?
Well, I think the best performance that we saw from Fraser, I think personally, was the performance in the first fight against Fabio. I think we saw performances against Dave Allen, which Dave Allen talks about the fact that he thinks he quit in that fight. I thought we saw an uninspiring performance against Marius Wack that obviously Moses Atoma a year later went and blew him out, or 2 years later went and blew him out of the ring in a round. So I think, obviously with a great amateur career, a lot was expected of Fraser. Of course, Fraser is one of the most likeable, nice blokes you'll ever come across. He is what we describe him as, Big Fraser. Everyone describes him that way because that's what he goes by.
Yeah.
I think this is a very important fight for him because he's come back. He's won his comeback fight. I think people were so shocked by the manner of the defeat against Fabio and what they saw in the ring. And obviously Spencer comes back and tells us that Fraser was at the airport and thinking about his career and looking at his kids and worrying about himself after that fight and the damage that was done to him in that fight. But Fraser's rehabilitated now. He's back. He's ready to go. His performance against Ebenezer Tete was a good performance. And he needs to deal with Jamie TKV. Now, whatever you think about the situation in the studio yesterday, the fight with David Adelaide was a fight that nobody wanted to see again, because it was not a nice fight to watch. It wasn't an appealing fight to watch. Whoever thought that was, it was a combination of Adelaide and Jamie TKV. I hope that given we've seen energy and hostility, and we saw it between Adelaide and Jamie TKV, and then we saw a stinker of a fight.
Yeah.
Respects.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we see a good fight on Saturday. Both said they're going to knock one another out. I hope that's what we see on Saturday, which is a good fight and Fraser kicking on. Now, going to your question, can he win a world title? Depends who he gets matched against. Do I think that Fraser can win a world title? I think it's doubtful. But do I think he can have a very respectful and high-end career? I think that's his gift. I think he has that available to him, yeah.
Okay, well, with Ben in studio, a lot to get through. The other side of the break, we'll speak about this matchup, more than a matchup. It's happening. AJ against Jake Paul. And, of course, Ben Shalom looked after Chris Eubank Jr., promoted him in the recent fight against Conor Benn. It's all gone quiet with Eubank Jr., so what's he up to? We'll get into that next.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We've been taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Another fight week, another big fight on the horizon. In this case, it's a British heavyweight bout between Fraser Clark and Jamie TKV. And the man behind that is promoter Ben Shalom, who's in studio with Simon and myself at this moment. Ben, a lot to get through in the time we have with you. Many people sending in messages that they want me to put to you. And this, by and large, quite a sizable chunk of them involve Chris Eubank Jr. Of course, you promoted him recently when he fought and lost to Conor Benn. And it was so one-sided it wasn't true. How is Eubank Jr.? What is he doing? Where is he?
Look, he's contemplating what happened, recovering from what happened. I think anyone with any sort of brain can see that wasn't Chris Eubank Jr. He was a shell of himself. I think he threw 30% of the punches that he threw in the first few rounds in the first fight. He was finished. He was done. He could not. He couldn't. He didn't even have the energy to fight back. And I don't want to make excuses because at the end of the day, a lot of fans paid a lot of money to go and see that fight. And what an event it was! What a spectacle it was! But Chris was not in the state that he should have been.
Why?
To have a fight like that.
Why?
That's for him. That's for him to talk
What?
about.
No, but why do you think that is?
All I'll say is that we knew on the day that he was not right, and that it's not for me to go into why and how.
He wasn't right before it.
He was not right before the
You
fight.
knew on the day he wasn't right before the fight.
We knew it was going to be a tough ask to see the Chris Eubank Jr. that we all know. To see even the Chris Eubank Jr. from the first fight, which wasn't his best performance either. We knew it was going to be tough, and I'm personally, I'm extremely. I was in awe of the way that he got in the ring and gave absolutely everything he could. But it was under extremely,
he talked about he talked about going to hell and back, and I realise that you don't want to breach any confidences, but my understanding is there's an underlying medical condition with Chris, which is causing a challenge for him. Which is not, he doesn't want to do it, because I think he was very magnanimous and gracious in the press conference afterwards, where he talked about not taking one single scintilla of credit away from Conor Benn. And I think that's right as well. But he can't anyway, because people would just slaughter him for doing it. But would someone be in the right neighbourhood if they were suggesting that there was an underlying medical condition which deals with digestion and situations like that?
No, listen, I am not gonna go there. I'm not gonna comment on it. All I can say is, as his promoter and anyone watching, you don't need to be a doctor. You don't need to be a specialist. You don't need to have watched much boxing before to know that Chris was not right on that night. And
did you walk towards the ring, Ben, knowing he ain't going to win this?
No, I honestly would not say that. I knew he'd done everything he could to get in that ring, and more than most people would, and that was it. And he put on a huge spectacle. It was a fantastic spectacle. Again, taking nothing away from Conor Benn.
Do you expect to promote him again?
I do. I think
so. That means he'll fight again. He's not going to retire.
He needs time to sort out his fitness and make sure that he comes back in a safe way and in a way that we know. And the Chris Eubank Jr. of old. Unless he can do that, then no. But he will be back. And
but not at 160.
Listen. A lot of people talk about the weight, the rehydration in particular is something that shouldn't exist in boxing. And there's doctors that will tell you that. It doesn't take me to tell you that. The board, I think, need to get across that now. I think that should be outlawed in British boxing completely. And one day that can go wrong, and there'll be people to answer for it. It's up to a fighter what weight they want to make. It's up to a fighter what weight they feel comfortable at. Of course,
I mean, you've got a say in it.
I'd like to see him at 168.
Yeah. Do you think Conor Benn deserves to be propelled to a world title shot?
I've actually, to be honest, I was in a strange way. It was nice to see Conor have his moment. What I would say is, don't take anything from that, because he was fighting the shell of a man, an absolute shell of a man.
Shell of a man.
He was not Chris Eubank Jr. That was not Chris Eubank Jr.
Should he have fought then?
I think he is a fighter. I think he wanted to put on a performance, and I think as a fighter he believed even maybe at 50-60%.
No, but you're almost telling us that because of his condition, those who gathered in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium were bound to be shortchanged.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is he knew he wasn't going to be the Chris Eubank
shell of a
Jr.
man.
Conor Ben shouldn't take too much from that victory, in my opinion, for his fights going on. He did well. He came through. We'll see what weight he fights at next. And as I say, in a strange way, I like to see people do well. I like to see him have.
Were
his
you
moment.
totally comfortable that the fight went ahead?
Chris knows how to protect himself, and the fact that Chris was not really in trouble for 12 rounds, I think shows everything about where he was at. But
you're almost telling us, Ben, without trying to dramatise it too much, that Chris Eubank Jr., you knew this fight was happening, and you knew that the real Chris Eubank Jr. was not going to be turning up for
listen,
it.
I will tell you the first fight, the one he won, which was Fight of the Year, which is the reason why the rematch sold so well, he wasn't 100% for that fight. No way near. He found the resilience and the grit to somehow get through. Somehow. He'll take some time now and we'll see the Chris Eubank Jr. evolve
But
back.
it sounds like you didn't have Chris Eubank Jr. fighting the second fight. It was a costume of a man that showed up.
He did extremely, extremely well to put on a fight and put on a spectacle. And he will have felt, even in that state, that he could have beaten Conor Ben, as he did the first time. And credit to Conor Ben that he didn't.
There's no trilogy, is there?
If Chris can get back to full fitness at the right weight, then of course that's the fight we want. But Chris needs to do that first, and I'm sure he will. Look, for me, Chris Eubank Jr. is a star. We've seen it with Liam Williams. We've seen it with Liam Smith twice. We've seen it with Conor Ben twice. These are paper.
He's a star without achievements, by the way.
He is the reason these events are massive. He is the reason. We'll see now with other.
The nostalgia is the parents are. You guys, you and Eddie have done a wonderful job of selling it into the public. I told you this second fight was.
So why was Eubank against Liam Smith both fights pay-per-view?
As much to do with Liam, I suspect, as well. You represented Liam as well, didn't you?
I'm just saying, Chris Eubank Jr. elevates every event that he's involved.
But he doesn't win when it comes to fighting top class opposition. He never wins.
I mean, I'd call Liam Smith top class.
The Liam Smith that went into the second fight would argue that he was beyond the repair. So you'll make the argument for Chris Eubank that he was a shell of his man, but you wouldn't make the argument for Liam Smith.
Chris has fought at the top
and the
level
interesting
for
thing about
a very, very long time,
but not won anything at it. But not won anything at it.
Will he ever be a world champion, Ben?
Again, we see paper world champions. We see guys that fight. We see guys that fight fighters. It depends.
Simon says he's done.
He's done. He's shot. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Bomac sat in the studio and told everybody, told me, and told Paul Smith, and told Spencer 12 weeks ago that this guy was going to fight for a world title at 160. Nobody knows. No, he can't fight at 160. That's done. He doesn't want to fight at 160. And up until the week of the fight, up until 2 days before the fight, was telling everybody that Chris Eubank was going to use all the physical size and meet Conor Ben in the middle of the ring and do to him what a legitimate middleweight should be doing to a welterweight.
It seems, Ben, like sensible thinking would prevail in that this mystery condition seems to add towards Eubank Jr. retiring.
He has a plan, and we have a plan for him to recover, but he needs time to recover. That was not Chris Eubank Jr. in the ring. And I believe, and everyone's got their opinion. Everyone can look at it, and everyone can say, oh, he should retire. We've heard it with almost every fight. He should retire now. He should retire now. Let's see what happens, because there's a big future in front of him.
If you lot buy this again, I had to eat my crow about the first fight because it was a barnstorming fight. The second fight was a fight. If the public want to pay for a third fight,
how can you say that? Right, first of all, that first fight was the best fight all year. Best fight in British boxing, maybe for many years.
I don't think
right?
that's true. I think Conor Smith against Josh Boazzi was a better fight.
Okay,
technically a better fight. He didn't have the nostalgia.
Well, listen, on that stage, it was unbelievable.
Whatever you want to say about it, it's come and gone. Are you having AJ Jake Paul in a couple of sentences? Are you having it?
Well, I'm hearing that Simon's considering going, and he said Eubank Ben was a circus.
Oh, that's news to me.
You know.
But I didn't.
It's easy to say.
Come on, then.
Everyone knows what
was
this
a
is.
real
You're going to go to it.
Everyone knows what Jake Paul versus Anthony.
You didn't fancy Eubank Jr. Ben, but you're maybe going to go for AJ.
But everybody knows. But everybody knows what Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua is.
I thought you
because I'm coming around to the world of thinking that entertainment and sport don't always have to have jeopardy in the middle.
Nothing to do with the flow.
You guys package this You guys packaged this as a legitimate fight. It was a pumped-up welterweight
legitimate fight.
Against a middleweight that was coming down with two fathers that sold it. Fantastic. You made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if the public want to be sold a third fight, then more for them.
Ben Shalom, we thank you for your time. Good luck with Jamie TKV against Big Fraser Clark in Derby on Saturday night. We, meantime, are at 11:30.
If cricket legend Graham Thorpe had received additional support after his sacking, he'd still be alive. That's according to his widow. The former batter was sacked as an England coach after the failed Ashes tour in 2022 and spiralled into deep depression, taking his own life last year. Now, Amanda Thorpe has exclusively told talkSPORT, despite the ECB extending Thorpe's medical insurance to cover 10 online counselling sessions, more should have been done.
Would have made all the difference. You know, it's hindsight and no one's got a crystal ball or anything, but it was too much, the cliff.
In a statement, the ECB says it's met with Amanda to discuss her concerns, and Graham's death was looked at by an inquest with full ECB support. That inquest didn't criticise the way he was sacked. Amanda Thorpe was speaking to Head Before Wicket, a talkSPORT investigation into mental health in cricket. Listen now on the Following On podcast. Now, as the dust settles on Manchester United's defeat at Old Trafford, do questions turn back to Ruben Amorim? The Red Devils slumped to a 1-0 defeat to 10-man Everton, and talkSPORT's Alex Crook says he's not confident of the current setup.
The fact he's stuck with the three centre-backs to the bitter end, I think is a dereliction of duty from the manager.
Meanwhile, David Moyes says he doesn't mind his players fighting if it helps drive up their standards.
I don't want them to accept somebody not doing well enough.
Get more on all that at talksport.com.
on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Now, we feel honoured this morning, Mr. Jordan and myself, because Matt Gibson, BetMGM, joins us live in studio. None of this Zoom nonsense. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. How are we doing?
Very well indeed, mate. Very well. I was having a pop at you about Leeds yesterday. We'll get to Leeds United.
Yeah, I'm sure your mate will join in on that as well. But we'll get there.
Well, one thing I would always say about Leeds United, Simon, correct me if I'm wrong, you always told me Elland Road, one of the best atmospheres for passion.
One of the most intimidating.
Intimidating.
Absolutely. I always found it to be such an iconic stadium. I mean, the boardroom came out in the 1950s, but notwithstanding that, it was still a fabulous place to go and play. And every time we went up there, I think we went up there a couple of times, got beat in the cup. Dennis Wise was the manager at the time, and it just really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And the fact that Ken Bates came up and pulled my cheek and said, "You're just like me."
Yes.
That stuck with me for different reasons.
Yeah.
But no, big club, great club.
Ken Bates, God, I remember that. You forget that Ken Bates had that spell.
We do try to forget
packed
that.
It, pre-packed it, packed it, pre-packed it.
Yeah. He once signed a Leeds United shirt for me, I have to tell you, Matt, and it said, Jim White, go back to Scotland and take Sean Connery with you, which was a lovely message from Ken. Listen, here's the thing. 10 men Everton beat Manchester United by a single goal to nil. Did you see that coming?
Crazy, wasn't it? I kind of fancied him. I was with a good pal of mine who works at Everton at the weekend. He was quite keen on him. He said, "I fancy us to go there and do the business." I won't quote him. I didn't say it yesterday because he was pretty strong on it. But about 4-1 before kickoff.
Really?
The circus with Garner Gay and Michael Keane is sort of Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer-esque and all of that. But I thought Amorim sticking with the back five down to 10 men. Is that the right move? Probably not, really. I don't think you need to have a back five against 10 men. And then with Man United, it was all about the resurgence. They've got Palace, West Ham, Wolves, I think, in the next few. Probably need to take 6 out of 9 for that, don't they? There's a big chunk of sides sort of gathering behind the fourth place side. Villa 21, and then all the way down in 12th, Liverpool 18. There's 3 points separating 4th and 12th. So there's a load of teams stacking up behind sort of the front runners in the division. I think it'll be really interesting who's going to come out the pack over Christmas and who's going to sort of cement 3, 4, 5, 6 from all those teams.
See, that win for Everton last night changes a lot of things for them, Simon. At this particular time, 3 points means a hell of a lot.
Sure.
To the likes of Everton going to Manchester. As you rightly said, you said earlier, Manchester United go to Palace.
They do.
Yeah,
on the weekend.
Yeah. Next.
I tell you what, it's going to be interesting. So tonight, Matt, we've got Chelsea, Newcastle, and Manchester City in European action. Chelsea, Barcelona, tasty at any time of the day or night. Newcastle down the south of France against Marseille. That's live in talkSPORT. We'll get to Manchester City, Leverkusen in a second. What are you thinking? Where are you at with Chelsea, Barcelona?
Yeah, I mean, it's one that's got a bit of history. We were talking upstairs. You also have the Torres when he rounds the keeper, and then the Ronaldinho goal, the Iniesta goal, both I think at the bridge. It's got a bit of history. This one, I think it'll be goals. Barcelona play that high line, don't they? I think they might be exposed if Neto steals a march on the back players. Chelsea are 13-10, which I think's quite a tasty price for them. Barcelona 7-4. Both teams are sort of similar in the group stage. I think they're both on about 7 points. With Marseille, Newcastle, Simon, you're really sort of into Newcastle. Can't win away from home. Not been good enough away from home. I think 29-20 is not a bad price from tonight.
How are they doing in Europe away from home?
They're struggling, but they beat Man City, which is not easy.
Yeah.
And I think winning, all right, everyone knows St James's under lights is different to going to Marseille, but I think winning a game like that should give them the shot in the arm to go and do a bit. In France, Newcastle are 3 out of 4. In Europe, Marseille just 1 out of 4. I think they've lost the last 12 against English sides. I think the Geordies will go and do it, lads, in all honesty. And I think, counting out Manchester City of this bit, I think Chelsea and Newcastle to win and both teams to score in that game.
I think, Simon, we're going to find out an awful lot more about Chelsea this week. This is a litmus test week for Chelsea. Barcelona tonight, Arsenal at the weekend. Then we'll be able to decide.
Well, it depends.
All right, the real Chelsea, stand up, please.
Well, I don't suppose the bookies are tipping Chelsea to win the league or the Champions League. So does it? Because we're tipping Arsenal to win the league. So by Chelsea getting beat by Arsenal, does it mean that we devalue Chelsea's progress?
No, but you keep telling us that they're serious challenges.
Yeah,
all right, then go out there and prove it.
I made the argument over the last couple of years against the backdrop of hysteria when everyone was concerned about Chelsea's spending that this club will come to the fore. Now, I've not made the argument that they're going to win the league this season. I expect them to be competitive. So when you're playing against a side that is going to win the league, if they lose to Arsenal, does that tell you that Chelsea's progress is not forward moving?
I know, but what do you mean when you say they're challenging? How, to what degree are they challenging?
In the top four.
Yeah, yeah.
In the top four. Challenging for a meaningful space.
Right.
Building up to who's not challenging? Man United not challenging. Who's not challenging? Liverpool.
That's the best we can do, Matt. They're challenging for a meaningful space.
I think with the investment they've had, they really have to have a meaningful
You
space.
bet. Now you're
anything outside the top four.
Yeah.
I had this with Sam Matterface a while ago. I said to him, anything outside the top four with the dough you've done is way off.
Well, that depends if you judge everything by pounds and points. Look at Everton. Everton spent hundreds of millions of pounds on them last year and nearly got themselves relegated. So think about it. Not every time it's about, Leicester won the Premier League without spending any money.
Yeah.
Man United have spent hundreds of millions. We're talking about Chelsea spending the same kind of money. Liverpool have just spent £500 million in the transfer window this summer, and it hasn't equated to an outcome this season.
True.
So,
Chelsea-Barcelona will be a draw. What would the odds be on that?
You want Chelsea-Barca to draw? Nearly 3-1, Jim.
3-1.
So not a bad price for the listeners there, mate.
I think we're looking at Newcastle going to Marseille, turning it around, winning down there. As for Manchester City, it was interesting yesterday because at St James's Park at the weekend, you might have seen Pep on the pitch. He does it from time to time, but he approached the cameraman and fiddled about with his headphones and what have you, and it didn't look good, did it? Pep spoke about that yesterday.
I apologise. Yes, I was going to ask you, is too much made of this stuff? Because, as you just said, just after the game, you're a passionate guy, you're a winner. Just is it a sort of who cares sort of thing in a way? These things happen, you just move on. Is that the best way to sort of look at it?
No, I feel embarrassed, ashamed when I see it. I don't like it. I apologise for the camera after 1 second. So.
But that's what I'm asking. Do you even need to? Because it just happens, doesn't these things?
I am who I am. Even 1,000 games, I'm not a perfect person. I make a huge mistake. So it's not about that, but I don't regret. What is for sure, I defend my team and my club.
What, was that his best pal in that news conference yesterday? Come on, Pep, you don't really need to apologise. No, please, don't apologise. You don't need to apologise. What? Ask him a question. Was it right to go up to approach the cameraman and do what you did? The answer is no, it wasn't. No, that was a question. Sorry.
Probably agree with you. Credentials for the next press conference.
That's ridiculous. If you're going to ask a question, ask a question.
You should be able to recognise a conniving, slippery journalist trying to make sure that he asks the question at the same time as keep on the good side of the person.
Well, you tried to defend what you did yesterday and you didn't get anywhere close.
I didn't defend it or condemn it.
Yeah. You should have condemned it. I condemned it and he did it.
Well, and he's adjusted his thinking about it and apologised. So what do we want it? Written in blood now?
Not really. Not really. Well done, Pep, for owning up to it. Wasn't the best look, was it? So Manchester City, are they looking good for tonight, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a stung Manchester City side is a dangerous one, isn't it? As we'll probably find that out at the weekend. But, dismantled Dortmund, didn't they, last time out against the German side in the Champions League? I think they've won the last 13 against German opposition in the Champions League. They won at 5 to win tonight. 6-1 the draw, massive price, 23-2 for Leverkusen to go there and do the business. I always like to give a little bit of value around the English teams. The English threefold, so Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City, going out about 23-4. I think Chelsea's probably the one that's in the balance there. I think the Geordies will do it. I think City will be bulletproof at home.
Come on,
I think Chelsea's probably the one that'll be quite close.
We noticed that. You always try to give a bit of value, unlike Dan Towse and Charlie Robertson. We can't have you here without talking about Leeds United.
Yeah.
Sad to say, Matt, even at this stage in the season, are we talking about it's going to take something else for them to avoid the drop come April, May?
It's tricky, isn't it? Right. So you look at the recruitment. Did they get it right with particularly the boys up front who signed on frees, who are patchy injury records and not necessarily taking the net off in the last few years?
Yeah.
Have they signed anyone that's markedly better than what they had in the Championship? The goalkeeper, suspect for the free kick. I don't know if you've seen it. Suspect for the free kick, in my opinion. Carl Darlow, Wales #1, was in the Championship last year, waiting in the wings. Spent, 16 million on Lucas Perry, something like that. So the recruitment has been a wee bit patchy, in my opinion. And then there's a lot of tongues wagging about Mr. Farker. I don't know.
Do you think that's fair that he's under pressure at the moment? Or is being seen to be under pressure?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a little bit to do with the teams around them. So Forest and West Ham made big calls, big decisions to get rid of their managers. Well, Forest twice in that case, but they've done that and they've quickened. and they've got out the relegation zone. Farke's defence after 11 games was, we have 11 points and we're not in the relegation zone. So we're going at a point a game, we're not in the relegation zone.
Yeah.
That has now changed. We play City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Brentford, your lot just before Christmas. So we could well be sat on 16, 17 games on 11 or 12 points.
I think that's an unfair comparison, because you're talking about two teams that have been in the Premier League over the last 3 or 4 seasons, and certainly West Ham have been in there longer. So they've got a very different base to build from. And when you criticise the recruitment of Leeds, West Ham's forward acquisition was Callum Wilson, who is an injury-prone striker that they got on the free.
Proven though, scores.
Well, so at times does the boy Calvert-Lewin. I'm a big critic of his for walking around with a handbag, but the fact of the matter is the boy can play, and whilst I think that ultimately he should be getting more goals, it's about what you do off him as much as what he does for you. And you look at, I was going to ask you, are your fans right to have a go at this kid that they seem to be terrorising at this moment in time? We discussed it yesterday. What's the boy's name?
Brendan Aronson.
Is this fair? Is it fair? I mean, players can get criticism. They can't take it in this day and age. We all know that. But is he being singled out unfairly, or his performance is substandard?
There's a little bit of history. So when we got dropped originally, Aronson got the breakout clause and he went off on loan to, I think, Union Berlin in that Jack Harrison, same thing. So Leeds fans have long memories, I'm sure you're aware. So I think his stock's not too high, but he's playing off the right, not necessarily contributing what you'd like in terms of goals, assists, tipping the ball over a lot, physically kind of way off the mark in the Premier League. He is getting. So
he's the Fabian Weiss of Leeds. Yeah?
He's getting a lot of stick.
Yeah.
I think fans are allowed an opinion. They're allowed to vote with the voices. Ultimately, they have to back the team that's in front of them. God, they'll need support at City, and then Chelsea midweek, and Liverpool after that, and Palace after
another
that.
chance.
You have to. Well, if Daniel's going to continue to pick him, then you've got no choice, have you?
Exactly. There's a fucking mess at the moment. Did I say that? Yes, I did. Matt, thank you so much for being with us. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We've been taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How would you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
It was around this time yesterday, was it not? As we approached midday, news came through from Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow. Two sackings. The chief executive, Patrick Stewart, gone. The director of sport, sporting director, Kevin Thelwell, gone. Both of them sacked, both of them out of there. To a large extent, many of the Rangers supporters were hoping for news like this, and they got the news they wanted. I wonder what the host of the Heart and Hand podcast, David Edgar, thought of it. David joins us live this lunchtime. David, good afternoon to you. Did the Rangers ownership need to move to get the fans like yourselves back on side?
I was surprised at the timing, Jim, but maybe not at the decision. I think both Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart had given the impression of dead men walking for a couple of months now, to be honest. But I can't remember a day at many major clubs where both the chief executive and the sporting director have been sacked on the same day. And what I thought was really interesting, you mentioned it there, Rangers were at pains to point out these were not mutual consents or they've decided to move on. Rangers were at pains to point out that these were sackings. So I think there was definitely an element of saying to the supporters, look, we get it. We realise the start has been unacceptable and we realise who have been the architects of that. So it's a huge decision from Rangers. There's no doubt about it.
Go on, Simon.
I was just laughing about the distance they want to put themselves between the delegation to the people that they allowed to make big decisions on their first impression. These are experienced football club operators that walked into Glasgow Rangers with this wonderful £20 million treasure trove and allowed people that they delegated to make decisions. And now they're trying to distance themselves from it and attribute the blame to Patrick Stewart and to Kevin Thirlwell when the blame is entirely upon them. It was their appointment, their decision. They decided to make the first managerial appointment someone they delegated to other people for, and they're offering them up as sacrificial lambs. Now, whether I think Kevin Thirlwell is good enough or whether I think Patrick Stewart's good enough is academic.
Well, you didn't, did you?
No, I didn't. Absolutely, I didn't. But what wasn't good enough was that these guys had an opportunity to go smashing through the doors of Ibrox and announcing their arrival in a far better way as experienced football club operators than they've currently done. And whether Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thirlwell are sacrificial lambs is irrelevant. The current guys that are running the football club haven't run it very well for the last 5 months.
Well, that's right. And to an extent, David, are you somewhat thoughtful that the current ownership will get the next appointments right?
What's a concern? Absolutely. Simon's spot on there. Simon is absolutely spot on there because at the end of the day, the buck stops here. It's the owners who have to accept the overall responsibility. If they hire bad people or people who are not right for the job, rather, then the responsibility lies with them. And yes, at the moment, we have nothing at all so far, Jim, that suggests that they're going to get the next appointments right. Now, Danny Rule looks a decent appointment and he started quite well, and the fans do appreciate that he's doing a good job in difficult circumstances. But I think what has become clear is that the owners came in and I think they thought Scottish football is easy. And if we get people from England who have been in the Premier League is much better than Scottish football, it will automatically transfer to success. The Premier League is a million miles better than Scottish football. No one is denying that. But Scottish football runs to its own little strange rhythms. There's a lot of stuff that you need to know about. There's a lot of things you need to be aware of. And I don't think they did their homework. And I don't think Stewart and Thelwell did their homework either. For example, signing a lot of players from the lower leagues in England when it's been proven at Rangers the last 5 years that doesn't really work. So had they maybe done a little bit or came in with a little bit more care and attention to, this is a unique league and a unique club within it. We've got to make sure that we understand it properly. They could have avoided a lot of the pitfalls that they have. And Simon is correct. You only get one chance to make a first impression. And the first 5 months at Rangers, as he said, have been totally unacceptable.
Yeah. So what now, David, do you think? I mean, when you look at it behind the scenes, turmoil at Rangers, we know Martin O'Neill's been in on an interim basis at Celtic, and we wait for the permanent appointment announcement sometime very soon. This could be Hearts' moment, couldn't it?
It's got to be. If any club out with the old firm is ever going to win a title, it really has to be this year, because if it's not, you begin to worry that, well, not worry in my case, but you begin to wonder if anyone ever will again. So I think that Hearts are starting to feel the pressure a little bit. They're starting to get a wee bit of altitude sickness when they're up at the top, because it is an unusual position for them to be in. So I think that at the moment with Rangers, and I know, speaking to our supporters, we are in recovery mode. We're taking it a game at a time at the moment. We're not looking 3, 4, 5 months down the line, because we're not in a position, we're not good enough, Jim, to do that at the moment. Rangers will need to simply try and pick up as many victories as they can. Celtic fans seem intent on, for whatever reason, wrecking their own season. That you need to speak to them about why they are so angry about winning everything the last 15 years. And I think that Hearts are in a good position to pick up on that. But for Rangers now, it is a case, I think, a time for a little bit of humility from the owners to say, do you know what, we got it wrong. As Simon mentioned there, and I think it's so spot on. Yes, you've got rid of these unpopular two, but now that's Russell Martin away. That's these two away. Now we're all looking at you. What are you going to do? What are you going to bring? You're the ones who've made this investment. You're the ones who've, come from other sports and big experience. And at the end of the day, you're the ones who've got to deliver.
Okay, David, some very good points there. David Edgar is host of Heart and Hand podcast. Made some good points there, David.
Yeah, he's a very good broadcaster. The fact of the matter is, the best thing for Scottish football, he'd have to be a turkey and vote for Christmas. The best thing for Scottish football was Hearts to win the Premier League, because it would liven the Scottish League up, and it would really waken up the big two giants about the quality that they've got to prevail with and the standards they've got to increase to. So the best thing for Scottish football, I think, is Hearts winning the league, but they won't. They'll get chased down by Celtic.
Okay. All right. With that in mind, a lot for us to share.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Commercial vehicles that go the distance for your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With the headlines at 3 minutes past 12, I'm Tom Clayton. Good afternoon. The widow of Graham Thorpe has told talkSPORT he needed more support from the ECB after his sacking as assistant coach.
It's really clear to me that he would still be alive, so it would have made all the difference. I mean, you know, it's hindsight and no one's got a crystal ball or anything, but it was too much, the cliff.
In 2022, at the time of his dismissal, the ECB extended Thorpe's medical insurance to cover 10 online counselling sessions, but Amanda Thorpe said they had requested residential care which was not provided in time. In a statement, the ECB says it's met with Amanda to discuss her concerns, and Graham's death was looked into by an inquest with the full support of the ECB. That inquest didn't criticise the way he was sacked. Amanda Thorpe was speaking to Head Before Wicket, a talkSPORT investigation into mental health in cricket. Listen now via the following on podcast. Elsewhere, talkSPORT has been told last night was hugely frustrating for Manchester United. A second defeat at home in the league, this time at the hands of a 10-man Everton. John O'Shea has told talkSPORT last night was easy for the Toffees' back line.
All the attacking talent they supposedly had on the pitch, and they just couldn't really sustain attacks, and they were putting in, I won't say pointless crosses, but for Tarkowski and Keane it was perfect night for them because they were loving it.
And Chelsea legend Gianfranco Zola says their match against Barcelona this evening will have a massive effect on what the Blues can do against Arsenal on Sunday.
Winning today, I think it will give a big boost to the team, to the crowd, to everyone, and it's going to be huge in confidence.
We'll have all the latest from the bridge as the Champions League restarts tonight from 7.
talkSPORT News.
Social media platforms are being asked to consider timeouts for users who repeatedly target others online, and 150 firefighters are tackling a warehouse fire in West London. More from the news team at 5:30.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Whatever the weather, our range of services is longer than the queue at the Chippy on a Friday night. Tyres, MOTs, brakes and more. Book today at quickfit.com.
Mostly dry today, patchy cloud allows some sunny spells, a few showers around coastal areas.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We've been taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology.
Good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes past 12 noon this Tuesday lunchtime. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT. A lot to get through in this final hour, and of course, big night in Europe as we have been underlining. Chelsea in action, Manchester City in action, and down in Marseille, Newcastle United in action. Can Newcastle win down there? Which is something that Roberto De Zerbi, remember him once of Brighton? He would not be too happy if they did. But we shall see what happens in the fullness of time. We saw what happened on Friday. And our next studio guest, football finance and legal expert Stefan Borsten, was in this very studio last week before the vote. Now the vote has happened, Stefan has come back in to see us because the vote on Friday was to replace PSR. It went ahead in the end, PSR. Remember, that is profits and sustainability rules. What has happened there? Well, forget PSR because now it's all about SCR. What is that? Squad cost ratio. In came that. Anchoring wasn't for them, but squad cost ratio very much was. SCR passed 14-6 with Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, Palace and Fulham, along with Leeds, all voting against. Why was that? We'll get to that. But SCR, what is it? And when is it integrated into English football? Those are my two opening questions to you, Mr. Borsten, and I know you can handle them admirably. So what is it? And when do we see it?
Well, first of all, we see it next season, although teams that breach the 85% or 70% cap, depending on whether they're in UEFA competition, they won't suffer any of the financial penalties next season. So only a very egregious breach of the 115% or the 100% limit would see a points deduction. Now, we now have for the first time points deductions that are spelled out in the rules So you get a 6-point deduction plus another point for every £6.5 million over the limit. That said, I doubt anybody will ever fail sufficiently to get a points deduction. The way the rules are constructed, it seems to me that it would take some pretty extraordinary spending for somebody to breach. And because of the scale of those penalties, I think it's unlikely that anybody would risk it. In terms of what it is, effectively is a simplification of former rules in that it only looks at certain elements of a club's financial performance. It looks at its revenue, its player trading profit over a 3-year period, and then it sets against that the amount of money that it spends on players. So that's the first team squad, the manager, none of the coaching staff, and the amortization cost that's accrued on the books. So effectively, and a little bit of agent fees, although we have some of the agent fees are already in the amortization. So effectively what you have is all of the debt cost stripped out. So for Manchester United, we used to have to consider how much debt, how much interest they were paying. Don't need to worry about any of that anymore. We don't have to worry, again, if you look at Manchester United using the excuse around PSR to sack 200 people, they don't need to worry about any of those operating costs anymore.
Right.
They're now out of the way for squad cost ratios. And it's effectively a simplification because you don't take into account things like the sale of a stadium, a hotel. You don't take into account the sale of the women's team. Those are not in the equation.
Right.
So it's a simplification in some ways. But of course, any of these systems, finding one size that fits all is always very difficult.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So why do Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, Palace, Fulham and Leeds not want it?
I think they've all got their own reasons. I think for the 3Bs, the Brentford, Bournemouth, Brighton, who arguably are the 3 best run clubs, all things considered, I think for them, PSR was working. They were well within the limits. The player trading that all of those clubs were in, were involved in, was working very well for them. And so they didn't need a change of system. I think Crystal Palace, there's probably some kind of looking forward and also some kind of political aspect to it, because if you remember, we spoke about Tim Lewis and Arsenal. We understand generally from the media, I think Matt Slater wrote about Parish being particularly upset about the anchoring not being voted through. So I think perhaps for Palace, it was kind of, if we're not having anchoring, then we're not having squad cost ratios and we'll bring it all back at another stage. Leeds is a slightly more sort of confusing one. I'm not sure why Leeds would specifically have voted against SCR, because I don't think that the old system worked particularly well for them. So, but look, in any of these things, all the people around the table have their own perspective because they have to fight for themselves. And obviously it was a very narrow vote in the end. Fulham have historically always voted against these mechanisms. So they voted against PSR back in 2012.
Right. I mean, you mentioned hotels, sale of hotels and all that. PSR was criticised for being restrictive. And some felt it kept the elite and the cartel together. This suits the big boys, Stefan, doesn't it? Let's cut to the chase. Sam Wallace in the Telegraph. The biggest clubs with access to Champions League and FIFA Club World Cup revenue can spend 85% of a turnover, which is much more money than the lower earning clubs with smaller stadiums and much smaller commercial deal.
Well, they can spend 70% because they're in UEFA competition, so you can't have it both ways. But you know, there is a scenario. He's right. I mean, the article, it's a good piece. The article, aside from that, if it was 85%, again, it comes back to one size not fitting all. I mean, actually, I've done some estimates about how it might look in a couple of years' time. It's very difficult because you're forecasting out 2 years. But actually, the teams that are in the kind of yellow zone between definitely okay and, you know, might be a little bit over and have to use some of this allowance that they've got.
Yeah.
Actually, those teams, the City, United, Chelsea, Arsenal are very close, Liverpool are very close. So the actual big teams, because they're restricted right back to 70%, they don't have huge buffers in this new system either. In fact, the teams that have the biggest buffers on the current estimates are those teams that voted against, ironically,
Right.
because a lot of the same disciplines that they've got about the control of their costs, of their wage bill, and the spending and the way that they buy and sell, all of that works well for them in that scenario. Ironically, the people who it hits hardest, or the teams it hits hardest, are the same teams. Villa, very difficult for Villa to comply under this new system. Newcastle United, very difficult to comply under this new system.
So they had problems with PSR, and now they're going to have problems with SCR.
So Chelsea, Villa and Chelsea both failed the equivalent UEFA test just in the last summer, in June. So they've both failed it already. So Villa are already on a pathway to try and reduce their percentage. Now, the test is slightly different. I won't bore you with some of the minor detail, but the Premier League system is slightly more preferential for Aston Villa and for Chelsea. But the bottom line is these teams have already failed these systems. Newcastle will be in the same position. Newcastle at the end of the season will fail part of the UEFA system. They'll fail the football earnings system, which is a very similar PSR regime. And they may also fail the 70% rule for UEFA.
What is the primary consequence of breaching UEFA 70%?
A fine.
A fine.
Yeah. A relatively small fine.
So Villa can afford to breach the 70%. Are they struggling at 85%?
They are at the moment. On my estimates, they find it difficult, because they've got a very big wage bill and they've got accrued amortization that's quite high.
Player depreciation.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that ultimately the consequences are they can choose to bake into their thinking the breaching of the UEFA situation in preference to the 85% of the Premier League, because they take the consequences of it by taking the financial penalty, which everybody did in the first place until points came on the table.
Yeah, they can do it in the for certainly for a period. They can do it in the Premier League system as well now. I think that's probably why they were comfortable with it.
Okay.
And so what they'll end up having to do is pay a relatively small fine up to the compliant teams.
Yeah.
Okay. PSR has gone. It's all about squad cost ratio now, and we'll see how that goes. A lot more to discuss with Stefan just after this.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We're taking you through what should be another busy day of football.
Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How did you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
Football finance and legal expert Stefan Borsten is with us this lunchtime. Stefan's been telling us about no longer PSR, it's now SCR. That's what we are looking at in future weeks to come. Squad cost ratio. I'm going to attempt to wrong foot Mr. Borsten this lunchtime because, Stefan, we may as well react to this. No time like the present. Message after message after message coming in this lunchtime. We've had enough. Manchester City and the 115 charges. When do we know? Now, that's not just from fans of other clubs, Stefan. Though many messages coming in from Man City fans themselves. When do we find out? How much longer can this go? We're getting close to getting out of this current year. Is it going to be early next year? When is it?
Well, look, nobody knows.
Why?
I've told you before. Because even the parties themselves expected to have been told by now. So that's the reality. Is
so who's holding it up?
All the lawyers are surprised that there is no decision at this stage, and that's on both sides. Who is holding it up? I'll tell you who's holding it up. The panel that's making the decisions holding it up. They hold the pen. So they are the people who everybody waits for to deliver the decision.
So who's the panel? Who is the panel?
Well, we don't know. Nobody controls. We know the long list. I mean, you can sort of cobble it together from all of the people on the judicial panel, but we don't know who is on that list. We can make some guesses that it's probably 2 lawyers and maybe 1 accountant, but we don't know who's on the panel. We don't know what they were told to produce by when. We can now assume, I think, given that it's been so long and given that everybody's so surprised that they don't have a decision, that actually there's very little guidance given to them and they weren't effectively paid for their time from the moment the case ended, the hearing ended. Arguably, the Premier League and Manchester City together with the panel should have agreed a process whereby the hearing ends and then effectively they're exclusively paid to deliberate and to produce over, let's say, 3 months or at worst 6 months and deliver it during the close season. That is one possibility that could have happened. Now, maybe these people on the panel had other engagements. Maybe that wasn't in the terms. They shouldn't have been engaging, should they? Well, I agree, but I guess a lot of the rules have changed around how you engage the panels and the arbitrators in these cases. They've actually tweaked a lot of these rules in the Premier League rules. And maybe it's as a response to the fact that they have made mistakes in the past.
Yeah.
I say it's down to both parties to have agreed a process by which, and I said this right at the start, there should have been a public announcement about the timetable. So everybody knew it was going to come out at a certain time.
Exactly. This is your world, Stefan. You operate in this world. To the man in the street, the woman in the street that supports a football club, this is unacceptable, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it's more, we if this was a trial in the High Court, this would be the earliest part that it could be, you would get a decision. So if you want to upset the man on the street, it's actually worse in the outside world. This is a private arbitration, and I would say of sorts. It's actually disciplinary, but for all intents and purposes, it's a private arbitration. I would say that makes it even more imperative that it was done within a commercial timetable. That commercial timetable should have been to fit in with the football timetable. It should have been orderly, and it should have been announced. But we've not been in that situation. We don't know why the decision has not actually yet been finalised. It's not impossible that, for example, one of the 3 panel members is sick or has got other engagements or has ended up in a trial that's gone on longer than expected.
Stephen.
It is possible.
What we're getting, the sick note excuse.
Well, it is possible. The other logical outcome is that it's quite hard to understand. I mean, it's a private arbitration. They're paid by the day, by the hour,
right,
to produce a decision.
Well, it's great work if you can get it.
So how can it possibly take now almost a year from the end of the hearing?
Is it possible they've reached a verdict and haven't gone public yet?
Not according to my information. According to my information, that neither party, my information's about a week out of date, but so it's possible that in the last week they've had it, but as of a week ago, the parties had not had the decision. So it wasn't a case of there's negotiations going on in the background. It's nothing more than the fact that the decision was not out with those parties.
I remember you had a little snigger when Simon suggested could well be end of the decade.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got 5 years left, so I'm still feeling confident about the bet.
Someone can't be that sick.
But you have to say, Simon is increasingly becoming right about the length of this process. If the decision comes out, let's say, I think Simon thinks it's going to come out next year. I think it still could come out before Christmas. Probably
this Christmas.
Yeah, it should do. The decision has been imminent for quite some time. There's not a lot that they can do. You know, it doesn't take that long.
What are you laughing at, incidentally?
Well, I'm just laughing at the fact it's a badly conducted process from the grandstanding of charging with 115 offences, which is already flawed in its thinking and created a set of challenges for the incoming panel, through to not determining the panel and the directive that you wanted to put them under. This is poor from the Premier League.
Yeah.
You want to go after Man City, you want to go after them with 115 charges and make a big song and dance about it, then you need to do it properly. Okay, exactly. Man City can come to the party and potentially be part of the conversation about when an outcome should be determined, but they're coming there reluctantly. So it was incumbent upon the Premier League to be not to be opaque, to be transparent, go, right, this is what we're doing, this is when we're doing it, and by the way, this is the panel, not necessarily by name, but this is the panel's directive. And this is when they'll come out with an outcome. Well, that should have been determined.
Yeah. Well, I think they could have announced the identity of the panel as well. I mean, we're going to find out who they are when the decision comes out. They're going to be there,
possibly.
And maybe you don't want people trying to influence. Get to them.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. But I think it's all parties. As Simon says, the Premier League. I think it's incumbent on all the parties. City were reluctant to obviously be in the hearing. They're obviously reluctant to have 115 charges. But once they're there...
Someone had to lead it. If the Premier League led it and Man City were resistant to it, if Premier League said to Man City, by the basis of this hearing, we are going to have an outcome in 6 months, and Man City tried to block it like they've tried to block everything, which is not cooperate, try and stop the media from having any visibility and do whatever else Man City do, then that could have been clearly evidenced. But right now where we are is... The Premier League are leading this process. They're the ones that brought the charges. It was incumbent upon them to set the framework, and Man City perhaps to concur with it.
Yeah, I mean, just game this out as well. I mean, let's say you're right and it's coming out next year. Well, when is it going to come out? Are they actually going to drop this right in the middle of the culmination of the season, right? So, okay, City may not be involved in a title race at that point. They may be, they may not be.
But is it the panel's?
But there might be the champion. Might be a Champions League. On the day of a semi-final of the Champions League. It's nonsense.
But surely it's not the panel's responsibility to concur with the compliance of a football calendar. It's just got to bring out its outcome.
Well, I've argued. This is. I think there's no obligation on them to, but I think it would be obviously incredibly sensible for all the parties. This is a commercial arbitration.
This
is not the High Court. Yeah, but it's not the court. It's not the High Court. They're being paid by the Premier League in the process. So, yes, they should be cognizant of the football calendar.
It's not the High Court, but there's even more visibility, more scrutiny on this than any High Court trial, because people are more fixated on what the outcome of sport is. So they should be operating at an even higher level. And to get someone into... I've done it. It doesn't take forever and a day. I got someone... You've had this discussion. I got Dowie into court within a year. and got an outcome within 3 months on a very difficult case. So it's not unachievable.
Different court system in those days. But anyway, it's not court, right? They're setting this up themselves. It should be quicker.
It's probably done.
And
you think we might know before Christmas?
Well, I think it's due.
It's a needle in a haystack.
Right, it's due. Everybody's expecting it.
He's been saying each quarter for the last year.
No, of course that's true. I've been saying for more or less since the summer that it's imminent, and I believe it is still imminent. And that's really just repeating what the parties themselves also believe.
Yeah.
But it gets to a point where even if it wasn't imminent, there's only a certain amount of time it can take to write up a decision. They've had a year nearly. I mean,
yeah,
and defend the basis of that decision against them. Very powerful.
So get it written up and let's find out. Stefan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Manchester City, of course, as they have done all along, say that they vigorously defend themselves against any of the 115 charges. It's 12:30.
If cricket legend Graham Thorpe had received additional support after his sacking, he'd still be alive. That's according to his widow. The former batter was sacked as an England coach after the failed Ashes tour in 2022 and spiralled into deep depression, taking his own life last year. Now, Amanda Thorpe has exclusively told talkSPORT, despite the ECB extending Thorpe's medical insurance to cover 10 online counselling sessions, more should have been done.
Would have made all the difference. It's hindsight, and no one's got a crystal ball or anything, but it was too much, the cliff.
In a statement, the ECB says it's met with Amanda to discuss her concerns, and Graham's death was looked at by an inquest with full ECB support. That inquest didn't criticise the way he was sacked. Amanda Thorpe was speaking to Head Before Wicket, a talkSPORT investigation into mental health in cricket. Listen now on the Following On podcast. Now, as the dust settles on Manchester United's defeat at Old Trafford, do questions turn back to Ruben Amorim? The Red Devils slumped to a 1-0 defeat to 10-man Everton, and talkSPORT's Alex Crook says he's not confident of the current setup.
The fact he's stuck with the three centre-backs at the bitter end, I think is a dereliction of duty from the manager.
Meanwhile, David Moyes says he doesn't mind his players fighting if it helps drive up their standards.
I don't want them to accept somebody not doing well enough.
Get more on all that at talksport.com.
Boxing update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
This Saturday, Ben Whittaker makes his matchroom debut against Benjamin Gavazzi for the WBC Silver Light Heavyweight title in a world title eliminator. Watch live this Saturday only on DAZN.
You missed the trick there, mate.
Go on.
You could have stuck that right on Ben Shalom's toes about Ben Whittaker, given the fact that he's had it nicked off him by Matchroom.
Well, yes.
Are you wishing Ben Whittaker well for the weekend, Ben?
That's right. He no longer has
his face scrunch up and his backside clench.
He no longer has him in his stable, does he?
Indeed, we'd have seen a different side to Ben. We'd have seen a mean-spirited side.
I would not do that. Put someone on the spot like that.
An opportunity we did there.
Honestly, controversial. What? Middlesbrough against Coventry in the Championship is a talkSPORT 2 exclusive tonight, Simon. And Coventry lead the Championship 7 points clear of Middlesbrough, who lie in second place. I tell you what, if it goes to 10, then that would be a lead that, even at this mid-season stage, looks pretty unassailable.
Championship. I mean, someone got reeled in a couple of years ago and nearly blew it, didn't they? When they were running away. Leicester started the season like a train on fire a couple of years ago. Couldn't lose a game, won every single game, and then all of a sudden couldn't win a game.
Yeah.
So it's not dumb, but you have to give a lot of cachet to Frank Lampard. There's not a lot of noise about Frank Lampard. It's more just about Coventry top of the league.
Yes.
Which is great for Coventry because the club is bigger than him.
Yeah.
But there we are. He's proven again that he can operate at this level. It'd be fantastic to see Frank operating with Coventry in the Premier League if they get there. And hopefully Middlesbrough don't suffer from the Rob Edwards scenario where he's left the club in the lurch.
Well, that's right. We're going to get to that. But I remember Doug King, Coventry owner, got a bit of flack when he sacked Mark Robbins. Now, further down the line, because they love Mark Robbins at the club, but Frank has done well. It was a brave appointment, and it's working for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think he got flack from certain quarters, and other quarters, I think people felt that there was time that they changed direction.
Yeah.
And this is the thing you do as an owner. You live and die by the decisions that you make. You make them for the right reasons. You give yourself a chance to get the outcomes. And Frank Lampard has come in and done a great job, and fair play to him.
I'll tell you who does a great job. talkSPORT chief correspondent Alex Crook is with us live this lunchtime. Alex, here's the thing. Middlesbrough have appointed Kim Hellberg as their new head coach. Can they pull out the moral argument now regarding Rob Edwards when they've engaged in their own kind of managerial hijacking?
Well, of course, this one had the added twist that it looked like he was bound for Swansea, as I was talking to you last week, and then Middlesbrough came in, as you say, to hijack that deal. He was under contract. They have paid compensation, although nowhere near what they got from Wolves for Rob Edwards. So I guess Middlesbrough fans who've been attacking Rob Edwards and attacking Wolves to a certain extent might have to eat their words. I know Simon has a different opinion to that. But I think Borough fans are just relieved now that this saga is over. They picked up a couple of positive results under Adi Vivash during his stint as interim manager. I'm intrigued that Kim Hellberg won't take charge that huge game against Coventry tonight. He officially starts work tomorrow. So again, Vivash will be in charge. And I guess there's the argument for continuity and not wanting to unsettle the dressing room. But it's a massive opportunity, isn't it, for Hellberg, someone who's seen as a bit of a promotion specialist. I think he's won promotions 4 times already in his relatively short managerial career. And it's not often that you get the chance to go to a club second in the table with aspirations on a place in the Premier League. So good luck to him. Obviously, he's unproven in England and it's a gamble in that respect, but it'll be interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah, Middlesbrough, it's his first job outside his native Sweden, Simon. But Middlesbrough and Steve can't really take the moral high ground now, can they?
Why is that then?
Regards to the Rob Edwards situation.
I don't think they took the moral high ground. This is a
well, hello, Mr. Hellberg. No, don't join Swansea, join us.
What's that got to do with anything to do with the moral high ground? The moral high ground was that they gave Rob Edwards a job, and after 5 minutes he'd been there, he was out the door. This manager seems to be touting around for every single job that's available. So it wasn't as if they stepped upon the club that he's currently with on their toes. So the moral argument was about Rob Edwards and his integrity. This manager seems to be readily available to any football club that wants to hire him. His club seems to be quite happy with that, and he seems to have been there for 2 years.
Why have we never heard of him then, if he was being touted around for every job that's
Well, he's just been in for 2 jobs, Middlesbrough and Swansea. So the 2 jobs that are available.
Swansea first, though.
What's that got
and
to
then in came Middlesbrough.
Fine, but notwithstanding, there's 2 jobs that the manager's being touted for. His club aren't up in arms about it. They seem to be quite relaxed about it. He's been there for 2 years, so there's no tacit resistance from his club, because clearly he's available, because he's being interviewed by other football clubs. Middlesbrough said no to Wolverhampton Wanderers. There's no issue with Wolverhampton Wanderers here. The issue is with Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards' integrity is up for grabs because he joined Middlesbrough and was there for 5 months, given all the support they should be given an opportunity to manage again after dumping Luton in League One. And the reward for that was for him to go out the back door. And yes, they got a big compensation. Well done then for signing a compensation clause in there.
Right.
But other than that, they've got a lot of disruption. And if their season is disrupted because their manager comes back and pillages their backroom staff and takes players and disrupts the playing situation, they'll not thank it for whoever comes in.
This is because this happened to you all these years ago.
No, because it got to be.
You've never forgiven them.
Because it's got to be called out for what it is.
Yeah.
If a manager fails and gets fired, or it cuts both ways, you've got to pay him. If he leaves and disrupts you after 5 minutes, it's not the same as being fired for not doing your stinking job.
All right. Alex, sorry, but for the moment, having not heard of Kim Hellberg, let's hear from him now.
That's the thing. In Hammarby, we've been second 2 years in a row, and I think second is of course, you want to win, but second is good enough here to get promoted. So I think that is something that, of course, is important, and I think Borough should be in the Premier League, and that's why I am here. There's no hiding behind that. I want to get there, and I know everyone in the club and the chairman and the people around it wants to get there, and that's what I will try to achieve over this contract I've signed. So that's what I want to do, and there's nothing hiding about that one.
So, Alex, I mean, almost strangely, Kim Hellberg could be a Premier League manager in about 6 months.
Yeah, and that would be Sam Reisman, as you say. Not too many of us knew much about him this time last week, and it is a huge opportunity. I think Simon would agree that Steve Gibson is just about as good a football club owner as there is out there. But I am intrigued to see what happens in January, because if you go back to the last January transfer window, they weren't anywhere near in as good a position as this Borough, but they did cash in on their main source of goals in Latte Lat. He was obviously sold to the MLS. They've got Hayden Hackney, who's been absolutely crucial to their impressive starts this season. He had Premier League clubs and other Championship clubs sniffing around in the summer. They managed to fend off those advances. So I can only imagine that Kim Hellberg has sought assurances from Steve Gibson that history won't repeat itself and he won't cash in on their best player for the second January window in a row.
Meantime, Swansea City have appointed Vitor Matos as their head coach. It's a 4-year deal for Vitor. Do we know much about him?
Well, we know that he worked at Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, highly regarded by the former Liverpool manager, but I think he had more of a role in the youth setup there. He's come from Maritimo in the Portuguese second division. So I guess both these appointments are calculated gambles. 2 managers in Hellberg and Matos who don't have any experience operating in the Championship, which is a very unique league. And Swansea's situation is obviously a lot different to Middlesbrough, where Borough have got their eyes set on a potential tilt of the Premier League. I think for Swansea, they're starting to look over their shoulders now. They were dreadful by all accounts at the weekend. They're only 4 points above the relegation places. So I would argue actually Matos has taken on a much tougher challenge than Hellberg has at Middlesbrough.
Okay, Vitor Massos is the man in charge of Swansea City. You've gone remarkably quiet now that you've had your almost daily outburst at Rob Edwards.
I was just thinking about the idea that this guy's dictated to Middlesbrough about who they can't sell in January. He's come from some scabby Swedish club to a big club in the Championship. So I think he probably gets the opportunity in front of him. And it'd be interesting to see, to go to Alex's point about the players that were sold last January, why they were sold, how much time they'd left in their contract, because that might have dictated the reasons why they were sold rather than the lack of ambition.
Yeah. Kim Hellberg, if you're driving around with talkSPORT on this lunchtime, scabby Swedish club isn't particularly complimentary to where you've come from. But you'll get used to it, Kim. Welcome. It's 1:45.
Hello and welcome to talkSPORT Goals. We've been taking you through what should be another busy day of football. Chance to win it!
We don't need to do that, guys.
I'm going to owe you an apology. How did you get to that conclusion? That's a weak mentality.
Oh, get out of it.
The Real Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
You know, when it comes to the real deal this week with Selco Builders Warehouse, I tell you what, Simon, the real deal when it comes to football. Who could argue that these two were not the real deal? Can you believe it? 5 years ago today, we lost Diego Maradona, who passed away at the age of 60. 20 years ago to this day, we lost George Best at the age of 59. Diego Maradona and George Best. Where do you start, Simon? Are these two iconic names that forever will stand the test of time?
Oh, I think so. I happen to be in the camp that I think Georgie Best was the greatest footballer to ever grace a football field for a period of time.
Why?
Because I just think he was
go that far?
Because I think he played in a time when football was very different, on pitches against opposition that were much more robust, against defenders that operated at a very different level. We had to deal with the Ron Harrises of the world, the Norman Hunters of the world, the Dave Mackays of the world, and all these sort of people. I just think that George Best, for a period of time, probably from 67 through to 70, was without doubt the best player on the planet. I don't care what they say about Pelé and Eusebio. And I think playing in English football has always proven to be the most difficult, most physical league. And look at the way that he played. Look at the ability he had. Look at the team that he played in. You know, you've obviously got the Holy Trinity with Dennis Law and Bobby Charlton. But George Best, I mean, obviously, he in his later life had challenges and challenges about the circumstances in which he existed. But as a footballer, what a footballer, what a player. You know, look at, I mean, again, the pitches that he played on, the English football, the ability that he had. I just think he was a remarkable, remarkable footballer. I think he'd put them all to shame if he was playing in modern football.
Oh, these days, if you put some of the present-day players in front of a screen and say, watch that, when he gets hacked, the way he get hacked, and still stays upright.
The size of the fella. He was a very small, and not particularly well built, but and to ride some of the challenges, that the people were trying to put upon him and physically put upon him all the time. I just think he was remarkable. Maradona was a product of his time and a wonderful footballer. I remember watching him go to Napoli and being amazed when you started to see Italian football filter through on British TV. Some of the goals that he scored. And he could, take care of himself. You saw the Battle of Barcelona, didn't you, when he was playing in that match where I think it was against Valencia or something that was just almighty.
Athletic Bilbao, I think.
Atletico Bilbao,
Goycochea. Had a go at him. I remember trying to get close to Maradona to try and get a question to him in 1986 at the World Cup finals in Mexico and not getting anywhere near to the man in question.
I remember seeing him play, I think it was in 1980, and they were raving about this 19-year-old kid coming over, and he was playing in a friendly against England at Wembley. I think England won the game 3-1. And Kenny Sampson was left back, and Kenny Sampson was a hero of mine because he was a Palace left back, and he got a torrid time. And there was nobody that really ran Kenny Sampson and made him look like a very average defender. Maradona was just a revelation, and we'd all been hearing about him. And as a young 12-year-old kid, I'd heard about this Maradona character, and then you saw him on the pitch at Wembley, and he was just a mercurial talent.
It was the same at Hampden when he played against Scotland at Hampden, and I remember going down to the news conference in the Central Hotel right beside Glasgow Central Station, and Luque, who was their goal scorer, the man up front with
Leopold
long dark hair.
Leopold Luque.
Luque was at the top table at the press conference, and Maradona was sitting at the back, just a young kid, just having a look at what the press conference was.
Because it was Luque and Mario Kempes were the stars of the 78 World Cup, weren't they?
Yeah. And then Maradona was quite magnificent on the pitch at Hampden. But George Best, you have to go back to 2005. This is good. This is George Best when he was on talkSPORT at that time, and he was talking to Rodney Marsh.
What would you want people to think of you?
I don't know. Well, I know what they will think. They forget all the rubbish when I'm gone, and they'll remember the football. It's as simple as that. I mean, I don't give a toss about everything else. As long as I remember the football, and if only one person thinks I was the best player in the world, that'll do for me, because that's what it was all about, as far as I'm concerned.
By the way, pal, there's more than one person who thinks you're the greatest player in the world. We've had thousands and thousands of emails and texts today, pal.
Pelé actually said that, didn't he?
He did. I found out it was amazing because I didn't know this. I was away somewhere, and an ex-footballer came up to me and introduced himself. I can't remember who it was, but he came up to me and said he'd been on a dinner in New York, and Pelé was guest of honour, and quite a few of his ex-Brazilian teammates were there, and he stood up to say a few words and do a question and answer, and one of the questions was, who was the greatest footballer he had ever seen? And they're all sitting there like Garincha and Rivellino and Didi and Fava.
Beckenbauer.
And he went, George Best. Apparently there was total silence. Which is a hell of a compliment.
George Best in conversation with Rodney Marsh. I mean, amazing. And even then, he was totally reluctant to accept that he was such an iconic figure.
Oh, I think he knew he was an iconic figure. I think he was the fifth Beatle for one period of time, wasn't he? At that time, him and Mike Summerby opening fashion shops in Manchester. And he was such a brilliant footballer. I mean, you've probably seen it, the footage. Have you seen that goal he scored? I think it was for Fort Lauderdale Strikers. He scores a goal that is just unbelievable, the close control, the ability inside. I know it's in American football. I know that at that time, the American football was a mile off. But they were all over there, weren't they? Rodney was over there playing for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Beckenbauer was playing for the New York Cosmos with Pelé. Trevor Francis was playing for the Detroit Express. Peter Beardsley was playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps. That time when British players were going over there playing football, and Georgie Best was playing over there. I think that's how he met Milan Mandaric. He met Milan Mandaric, I think, playing for the San Jose Earthquakers or something of that nature. Yeah. And of course, they reacquainted themselves back in the UK when Milan bought Portsmouth.
I mean, it's not really brutal, but are we guilty of looking back at players like Best and Maradona with rose-tinted glasses?
No. Why?
I mean,
why would you say that?
Well, it's obvious why. Because behind the scenes, you could argue that both of them let themselves down in such a way.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
On numerous occasions.
They were flawed geniuses.
Behaviourally.
Yeah, you mean they hurt themselves?
Yes.
They hurt themselves with their activity off the field. And to some extent, Maradona on the field. But they, like most geniuses in sport, they come with another side. There's a conflict of interests in being a genius against what it takes to be one. And that means that you're wired differently, and that means you are subjected to certain extremes in your life. George's was alcohol, and that brought him down and destroyed his life. And at 59 years of age, we lost George Best. And I met George on several occasions. Ironically, I dated Alex for some time, and I saw some of the worst of George at that time. But as a footballer, which is what we're talking about now, my father loved him. I grew up watching him and spending time watching him. And I grew up in the era of the Kevin Keegans and the world and people of that nature that you admired. And Georgie Best wasn't just an icon because he came out of the 60s and because of that Manchester United side that won the 68 European Cup and because of all the wonderful players around him. It's because he was so bloody good. And Pelé doesn't give you that accolade for no reason. It wasn't a charitable vote. And Maradona, as a player, put aside their failings, because those without failings are always those that never try anything. And of course, they've got conflict in their personalities. But when it came down to it, when you distill it to what they could do in a football field,
of course,
these were brilliant players. And George Best would have been an absolute superstar beyond all superstars if he was playing in modern football. With the technology, the pitches, the carpets they play on now, with the defenders that apologise for tackling you.
I think Maradona's still a cheat in Terry Butcher's eyes.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make him not a brilliant footballer, does it?
20 years on from the passing of football icon George Best, his former colleagues Jeff Stelling and Phil Thompson bring you a very special episode of the talkSPORT Daily podcast, available now, reflecting on the brilliance, charisma, the complexity of one of the game's greatest players. If you want to hear more, then the talkSPORT Daily is available on all podcast platforms now. Remember, for the latest offers as well, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com. We're back tomorrow as The Real Deal on any Wednesday morning between 10 and 1, and we'll be alongside another Real Deal in Danny Murphy. We're coming up to 1 o'clock.
The Real Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's Real Deals at selcobw.com.